Hello and welcome to Giant Slayer Series Season 2. Before we get started, I wanted to state that Giant Slayer TFT will be donating all the proceeds from today's show to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. I want to get that out there. And as such, Dan, Frodan, how you doing?
Doing okay, DoA. It's a pretty sharp reminder about what's actually happening in reality, as there are lots suffering right now. But we're also here to compete and play video games. So thank you for Giant Slayer TFT to put forth their money where their mouth is. So it's really important we do that. In the meantime, though, on some more positive news, we're going to have the debut of several players for Giant Slayer Series Season 2. And after one day of competition, pretty excited to see what's going to happen today.
Yeah, we had a lot of action yesterday. We had Mech make an appearance, so it's kind of the last hurrah, I suppose, for that before the mid-set switch over. But we also saw a lot of really interesting comps work well. The Jin Boom comp found some success. We saw Space Pirates leading up to that. It was really neat. But let's take a look at some information about Giant Slayer series, as it is just day 2 of Season 2. You can see our format right here, 3 weeks of group play, points breakdown on the right, and then in the end we'll have a finals where our top 8 players will get to join that finals lobby, and we'll crown our champion, our GSS Season 2 champion. Last season was Delicious Milk, and it's anybody's guess who this season is going to be, because like you mentioned, we've got a lot of new faces actually coming in for Giant Slayer Series Season 2. Let's take a look at our prize pool first, so before we get any farther on that note. $1,000 for first, and it goes down from there. You even get a little bit just for showing up if you're unfortunately not able to make it to that final top 8. And so supporting TFT Esports. We could ask for anything more. It's great.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I mean, more so than money, there's a lot of pride on the line for the players to compete. There's, of course, the ability to call themselves a champion and, being able to be on top of the TFT circle, so to speak. But there's also the element of NA versus EU. There's plenty of arguments on whether or not we should be favoring one region over the other in terms of who is the dominant region. And so I expect a lot of the European players to come out swinging this first week.
I think so. I think it's going to be great. We know that there are lots of good European players. We've casted them in different events in the past. Even Giant Slayer Series Season 1 had a couple representatives from EU, like Gunmay, who you see on your screen right there. But I think there's definitely the thought right now that the North American players are ahead. So here's a chance. It's even, split right down the middle, NA-EU, for the European players to show their stuff and take the lead right now in our current standings after one day of play. Obviously, only half the players have played, but we do have 1 and 2 occupied by 1 North American player and 1 EU player. And then 3 and 4, 1 EU player, 1 North American player. So it's 50-50 already, even in the top 4. But we'll see what people can do today. Let's check out the schedule for today and see what we've got going on. Of course, we had our lobby yesterday. Here's our breakdown for today. What names stand out the most to you, Frodan, as we check out today's schedule and then move on to the lobby for tonight, which are the same names?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I'm looking at is number 1 player on North America, Kiyoon, who has been doing very well. While I think a lot of players basically stopped playing lateral entirely because, one, they're practicing on the new PBE patch that's going to be for the mid-set expansion for 10.12. But there's also players who are trying to hold their spot for the snapshot. And Kiyoon fearlessly keeps queuing up, despite the fact that he knows people will be trying to gun for him.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a really interesting storyline to go into for today. How will Kiyoon handle his tournament performances, given that he has also done recently well in tournaments, especially ones that you've casted, DoA?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he won the Starside Invitational, of course, playing only mech. Like, what do you expect from Kiyoon? But if you look at that ladder account that he's been using to get to the top of North America, he doesn't just play mech anymore. He plays a pretty good variety of compositions. So I wonder, with the impending mid-set patch coming in, if we're going to see a new era of Kiyoon, right? Where now it's time to finally move away from the mech and see what he can do with the other comps. Because we know he's a good player in general, too. So I'm just mostly really curious if he's only going to play mech today. I won't argue with that if that's the case, but we know he can play so much more. I want to see it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how everyone else is feeling. We also know how consistent Khroen is. We know Kiting
Yep.
is more than capable at his peak to play at the highest levels and beat everybody. And then there's like the EU players who are super solid and very good. Deisik and Gunmay. Need, who also comes from a card gaming background. I've casted him for years. So I think that this lobby, there's no slouches. I think the only player I haven't mentioned is Tien. And Tien is one of the few players returning to season
Yeah.
2. So that already is a feat in itself.
Well, and Tien as well was one of those players that was always willing to play comps that were a little bit off the beaten path. We saw him play sorcerers a little bit more often than a lot of the other players who had kind of given up on that comp more or less. So it's cool to see him requalify specifically because I think we are going to see some more variety. Another name on that list, of course, that you can't ignore, another season 1 veteran is going to be Gunmay from Sweden. And Gunmay is another player that's shown the ability to kind of popularize some of the less popular compositions. And when I was talking to him on my show the other day, one of the things I asked him was, what do you really want to be known for? Like, what is Gunmay's style? And he said that one of the things he really wanted to be known for was his adaptability, his capacity for playing a lot of different compositions. And if you look at the Giant Slayer season 1 results, you are going to see a pretty big variety compared to a lot of the other players in there. So you can expect that from him. That's always a fun thing to watch from a player. So all in all, I think we've got a lot of fun stuff to look forward to here in Giant Slayer series season 2, day 2, and it is a star cluster for our first lobby of the day and an all spatula star. What's going on?
An all spatula start when we're hopping on Kiyoon's POV. I'm waiting for it. Did he already type it? Did he already
I
type the fact that this is a
you think you'd
for
have
fun
to?
carousel, as a lot of players like to call it, because it's an unpredictable one that's super wild. It's hard to kind of guarantee that you'll get anything.
Yeah.
Um, and so now, with everybody having a spatula, what's on everybody's mind? The first thing, of course, is the demolitionist spat. That is one of the strongest items in the game currently, as most people will use that demolitionist spat in a variety of compositions. It doesn't even necessarily have to be mech. It can also just be rebels and give the demolitionist spat to Aurelion Soul and make Aurelion Soul a very powerful stun bot.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can use it in multiple different comps right now. You mentioned Rebels, and I think that's another thing to sort of keep in mind as well. That Rebels can also benefit from a spatula start, and that if you get that Chain Vest, you can make the extra Rebel, and then that can get transferred onto like a Misfortune or a Gangplank later in the game. So we'll see. I guess in terms of spatula potential right now. The other one that you probably see the most commonly would be Infiltrator, which is still popular on champions like Leona. But do you get the impression that the spatula is not quite as impactful in a broad sense of an item as it was in the past?
I think that spatula has definitely dropped in power level for sure. The important thing to like note about how all these spatula compositions come together is pretty much like once you kind of have a direction. Um, it used to be like you would make the spatula item and then pick the carry that you would go for. So if you played
Right.
like Blunder in set 2, for example, you would then start to make that direction and start to play that. Or if in set 1, if you played Assassins and you found like this early spatula, you would turn someone into Assassin and then just start to go Void Assassins from there.
Yeah.
In set 3, it seems more like you play your composition, and if you get a spatula, you think, okay, how can I best use this? And chances are, most of the time, you're just going to use spatula for a force of nature combination, or maybe
Yeah.
just kind of some impromptu, like throw it on stats for cybernetic.
That's the thing. It's more of an augment now than it is sort of a defining direction for your comp. But I'm curious. I suppose Celestial Spat that we saw Kiyoon kind of toying around with is another option. You can do some fun things with Blade Masters right now as well. But I do think that on a in a game like this, funny enough, Star Guardians is a viable option because if you can go 6 Star Guardians, 6 Sorcerer at level 8, that's still a very potent composition. And that's something kind of people forget about a lot when they have access to an early spatula. Is that oftentimes you can get those tiers, you can get all the items you need, and people may not be expecting it, and it does have a lot of strength to it.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at how people are utilizing spatulas, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens for this game. For now, I anticipate most people will actually just hold off on the spatula and think like if they find another spatula, for example, on the next carousel, I think they'll probably consider picking that up.
Oh yeah,
And then
for
just
sure.
kind of
Force of
playing
nature is
Force of
huge.
Nature.
That's
Yeah.
that's the
So
best spatula item always.
mhm.
Yeah. Now we did see Gunmay made the protector chest piece right away, and Gunmay is very well known for playing Space Jam. Even now, when people say that the comp has lost a bit of strength, I think Gunmay and I would say too, I think the comp is stronger than people give it credit for. And having a protector Darius is a really good buff for that comp if you can get it.
Yeah, I think that Space Jam is a composition that suffers the most when there's like void brawlers becoming super popular. Back when Shredder was starting to become like the norm, Space Jam was pretty good because most people weren't
Right.
really building things like Guardian Angel as much because they were utilizing their swords for offensive carry stuff like Death Blades and IEs,
Hmm.
um, things of that sort. And so now that Guardian Angel seems to be popular again because of the rise of compositions like Kha'Zix and Gangplank playing Guardian Angel as part of the core itemization of it,
Hmm.
it seems like the Darius resets are a lot less powerful now.
They definitely can be. I think the biggest benefit in my mind that playing Space Jam gives you right now is just generally, if you hit, of course, generally it's a very strong mid game, and so you can save yourself a lot of HP. And even if you start to falter late when all those GAs start coming online and like the 4 brawlers come online, at least you've got enough HP to hopefully hold down like a top 4 or something like that. But it is tougher again to run it, which is too bad because it's a really
Yeah.
fun comp.
Well, I mean, this is a galaxy where I think it actually could work. I like this pre-level by Kiyoon, by the way,
Oh yeah.
because he's just trying to maintain his win streak, playing the best board, Mordekaiser over Leona. That's definitely good.
Mhm.
But I like the Space Jam for this galaxy in particular because everything that you get on the carousel that's a tier 1 to tier 3 unit automatically comes in as a 2-star, so you have a
Right.
higher chance to a much higher chance to 3-star a bunch of units. And there is a tipping point, right? If you have like 6 or 7 3-stars, I
Mhm.
mean, you just win the game. You can't really lose from that point on, unless your opponent of course has equal amount of ridiculous strength on the board.
Yeah, it's a great point. Funny enough, one of the games I played with Gunmay the other day was a Star Cluster game where we ended up going Space Jam. And yeah, you can get those 3 stars a lot faster. You can get access to an early Darius too, where the item
Mhm.
doesn't really matter that much because the Darius too early is super strong. But we'll see what
Right.
he can grab. So there's a couple
Ooh.
Space Jam. Oh, check that out. Tien grabs another
Yeah.
spatula. Force
Yeah,
of
that's
nature,
really
like we
big.
said. Strongest spat item for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if Gunmay's gonna go for this Shinzao
Oh yeah.
with a belt. Of course, he is. Warmogs is very good on Shinzao or whatever item he chooses to play. In fact, I think Shinzao might be the only unit that utilizes Warmogs to his full potential with his tankiness. But there's some other
Yeah.
units that could capitalize on it, just not as good.
Yeah, I think a lot of the big, generally tanky units like Malphite can do okay with Warmogs because you have to burn through all that shield before his HP starts dropping, and he does get a bigger shield based on his AP HP pool. But also when you're hitting a Jinjiao 3, having like a Zizurot is really nice as well because you get that 3,000 HP minion that pops out. So having a belt on that, definitely no problem with that. On board with Unid now, as he looks like he's heading in a Shredder direction, and I like the Celestial Spat adaptation because this is a build that runs for Celestial. So being able to get there earlier without having to include one of the extra ones that doesn't fit in quite as well is a really cool sort of bonus.
Yeah,
But there's
and
Gunmay.
I mean, Gunmay, he has that 2-star Shinzao. He's already got the Protector on the Graves. It's a fairly tanky board already. And I
Yeah.
think another thing to consider is that it looks like Caitlyn is up
Just
against
chill
the
out.
world here. I think another thing to consider is that Shinzao 2, just as a standalone unit, is still very reasonable to play early on. I think that he
Yeah.
might be one of the more undervalued best board units that you want to play because he can hold a bunch of tank items very well. And he's also just very resilient to help you give time for your carries to pick apart the board early.
Hey, he does good damage. He has a good crowd control effect with his ability. Well, if we were on Gunmay's perspective, he'd be pretty happy seeing this Jace, but you need not going to be able to use that one as much. Saving up right now, and so it looks like he's gearing up for the 3-1 roll down to see if he can find some 3-star Jarvan, 3-star Zaya, maybe a 3-star Caitlyn. By the way, I did try 3-star Fiora yesterday, and it was okay. It was
It
okay.
was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
My guy. Fiora is bae. She slaps.
I didn't
I'm a
put a
big
ton of
fan of
items
Fiora
on her,
3. Well, I
but
mean, yeah, I guess if you're not really itemizing her, it can be kind of a struggle. But at the same time, into kind of what you're saying,
mhm,
it's more of a secondary goal. You're not supposed to prioritize it.
right.
So yeah, definitely like
If you hit
prioritize
her,
the
great.
Xayah
But
first.
yeah, Xayah Jarvan, definitely the top two. Caitlyn Fiora a little bit secondary.
Hmm.
But it's interesting because Shredder is a comp that is still strong. I believe we saw it take a second or a third yesterday in one of the games. It definitely placed high in one of the games, but it is starting to fall off a little bit. The big weakness that it's always had is that it's generally single target, unless you go for like the Deathblade Runins build on a Xayah, which we see sometimes. And when it comes to the late game, single target builds just tend to fall behind because while Gangplank is AoEing your entire team, you're just like hitting one person. So it can if it hits be very strong, but I think it's kind of going down in strength overall right now.
Yeah. And this is a awkward position for you need to be in because he's got defensive items and not exactly the best to try and make a full shredder build. Looks like he's going to continue to keep rolling. I'm not sure if he wants to roll too much. It doesn't look like its shredder is very contested these days. And unless
Mhm.
you're looking for a specific power spike, like I really want to get these 3 stars so that way I can contest and be very strong. I
Yeah.
don't really feel like you don't have to go beyond 30, but he could still continue to keep going for it because he's on a roll right now.
Oh, he's so close. He nearly found that Xayah 3. Just one away, I believe. A little bit
Yep,
away from
one
the Caitlyn
away,
2. And you
one,
can keep
two
rolling
Caitlyn's
here.
away. Oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
He has to start deciding between some hard decisions.
You want the Caitlyn over the Fiora, probably. There's the Xayah 3 and the
Yeah,
Jarvan 3.
yeah.
That's
Had
pretty
he had
nice.
the bench space, he would have gotten Fiora 3 as well.
Yeah. But like we were just saying, I mean, you need demonstrating right there. The priorities are always going to be Jarvan and Xayah. But now a chance to maybe regain some HP. The tricky part is, like we've been seeing, he just hasn't been getting the items that you need to power up that
Right.
Xayah. And a Xayah 3 with no items is just not going to do damage. So
Yeah.
we'll
This
see what
is
happens here. Oh, don't build the trap claw. Oh, okay, good.
well,
I was
Trap
scared
Claw
for a second.
is not the best, but it's
Not a
definitely
first item.
okay. But as a first item, yeah. If anything, if you need is desperate enough, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I have seen Thieves Gloves on Xayah and then prioritize other carries, like
Yeah.
putting items on Caitlyn and hey, Fiora probably gets get 3 star too.
If worse comes
Um,
to worse, I think it's better than nothing for sure.
Holy cow! Lev has a 2 star Irelia at stage 3
Wow.
too,
How did that
and
happen?
he almost lost
Huh.
to a no item Xayah.
There's gotta be some Nikos involved there.
Jeez.
He's getting some outside help. So no more rolling
Okay.
down now for you need when you play Shredder, when do you usually wait to do your second roll down? Do you just not do it at all, or do you do another one a little bit later? What do you prefer?
Um,
Depends on the game, of course, but what do you find yourself doing most often?
when I'm playing Shredder,
Yeah.
uh, in terms of like what I choose to prioritize from this point on is pretty much you have Xayah 3. I'm just gonna try to get to level 8 as safely as possible here.
Yeah.
I understand that some people still want to keep rolling here because they want Caitlyn and Fiora to get the 3 star. But with the changes to Xayah and Shredder now, and because the power level is generally weaker, you need to have the power come through your leveling. And
Right.
I think that there's also an extra power spike here because you need has that celestial spat, and therefore he will get 4 celestial online just a little bit quicker, which is kind of important for him because that means at level 7 he's going to hit his strides at level 8.
Yeah, very good point. And back to the carousel. All right. Oh, that's a
Right,
two-star Jace with a cloak. That could be an
that
Ionic Spark.
bow,
That's huge.
nice.
But yeah, he finds a bow for the last whisper. So that's good for you, Need. Yep. And for
Trying
yeah.
to fix his hotkeys. These EU players, they are playing on high ping, 200 plus ping.
Sure.
We do appreciate them. And so, you got to maximize your chances of making sure your inputs go through.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna take a look at Gunmay's PUV here, and oh boy, we just saw it. He just got
Uh-oh.
a, 2-star Jace with a Negatron cloak, and the reason why I emphasize with a Negatron cloak is because getting Ionic Spark in your team somewhere is really useful. I guess he already has it on Jarvan, so it's not quite as useful, but still, that could be a Dragon Fang eventually, something like that. Either way, you're just happy to see the Jace too, because it gets you, 3 Jaces closer to a Jace 3.
Yep, it's a big power spike. Oh,
Yep.
finds
Hey,
Darius
Darius
too,
too.
finds Kassadin.
Yep. On the
Finds
Darius.
another one, and looks like he's committing to a miniature roll down here just for a little bit extra units. I think it's because he had to dip below 50 anyways, so he thought might as well just go down to 40.
I think part of it as well is that you're giving up your Graves 2 right now to get the Protector chestplate on Darius, so you might as well roll down until you hit that Darius 2 to make sure it's worth it, and pick up whatever else you can along the way. He did find the Ashe 2 as well, which is pretty nice.
Oh my goodness,
There
the
we
Darius
go.
comes in. It's the second time he got interrupted though, but the damage is done. And Khroen will take this loss. Gun may recover some of his health, or rather his gold. And looks like he has stabilized with that Jace 2, despite it getting pulled by the Blitzcrank.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why this build still does work fairly well in the meta, even with more, tanky brawlers and GAs and things, because even if Darius only kills like 2 people, 3 people with his resets before he gets stopped, that's still 2 or 3 people on your opponent's team just immediately eliminated. So it is still a big swing in the fight for you in a lot of cases.
Right.
So it's yeah. So I mean, you don't necessarily, it's not a failure if Darius doesn't dunk the entire team, you know?
Yeah, and I think that the hardest part about this is basically stabilizing because you're going to be
Yeah.
spending so much of your time rolling, and a lot of the rolls don't actually translate to power spikes because how expensive the units are
Right.
relative to the one cost carriers, Kha'Zix, Ziggs, Zaya. They're so much cheaper. So when you hit 6 to 7 gold worth of units on that, it translates usually direct power. 6 or 7 is like, basically at best another 2-star version of something. So it
Right.
does take a while for this comp to get online.
Yep, certainly does. Right there, that was a showcase of the strength of having Darius as a protector because you saw he got hit by the Vel'Koz like multiple times, but the shields that he acquired, and the shields do stack from dunking people, was enough to kind of weather that damage. So once he finds a, let's see, who would be the fourth protector here? There's a couple different options you can go for. You can add a Nico in maybe, but late game it's easier to add that fourth protector, which is normally something you don't have in this comp. And then Darius gets pretty wild. Although honestly, it isn't a big buff between 2 protectors and 4 protectors. So if you don't hit, it's not the end of the world. Just getting the shields on Darius at all is nice.
Yeah. All
Hmm.
right.
Okay.
So
Well.
not the best item. So the thing about when you try to look for when you're playing Space Jam is a lot of rod items and
Right.
Guardian Angel, and it doesn't seem like he has a lot of that. Although he could build. Oh, it looks like he was thinking about Zeke's. I was thinking about Warmogs on Shinzao. He's thinking about Redemption. I mean, all these defensive items are totally fine. Redemption's, I think,
Mhm.
very good in Space Jam, given that your team is very tanky, so you give it even more tankiness.
Yeah, I like the Zephyr on the Jace as well. That's always going to be an item that's useful. Jace is pretty mobile as far
Mhm.
as moving your comp around. One of the big things I learned from Gunmay when we were doing a Space Jam game together is his emphasis on always trying to keep the Jace and Darius next to each other. Just because Jace oftentimes goes off earlier and he sets up the dunks for Darius, and you'll see that in the positioning quite a bit. Looks like he's going to lose this one, and I think a lot of that is due to the items that he hasn't quite found for his comp yet. But that is a really strong Zaya on the other side. I.e., Last Whisper is pretty much what you're looking for when
Yeah, it
you're
looks like
building Shredder.
got bailed out by the drops from the infiltrators. So a
Yeah,
really good sign for that Shredder player to be able to get some damage. But 2 more Jaces away, and then we're on our path to greatness here for Gunmay.
hitting a Jace 3 before a Darius 3 would be kind of wild, but you're definitely not complaining.
I've
Jace
hit
3,
Jace 3 before I hit Darius 2 before. I know
dude.
that
I
sounds ridiculous, but I
I
have.
uh, I once played a mech game where I hit a Fizz 3 before I hit a Rumble 2.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
so you
crazy.
can see those fringe scenarios for sure.
That's
But Jace 3
crazy.
honestly can be a win condition if you depending on how you itemize him. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
basically at this point of the game, especially since he doesn't have like things like Death Cap and other, Jewel Gauntlet, whatever AP
Mhm.
items he has on Darius, Jace is probably more important for his composition than Darius is. Even though right now Darius is still doing well, it's just that any minute during stage 4 he starts to drop off, especially after Carousel, because that's when people who are playing traditional power up comps to the level of 8 are starting to roll and hit their
Mhm.
units and get their synergies online.
Well, that's where you really start to need those 3 stars is, like you mentioned, towards the end of stage 4 when 2 stars, pretty much no matter what items they have on them, are gonna start to fall off a little bit, 2-star 2 costs. So, ideally, by 5-1, he'll have his, 3-star Darius and maybe, like, another 3-star, 2 cost, like a Xin Zhao, Rakan. Rakan is always really nice.
He's really close to a Shinzao 3 and
Mhm.
a Jace 3. Those are two of the units to pay attention to.
Right.
And remember, this is a carousel once more that'll be offering him a single item component, but also it potentially gives him the full combination that he's looking for. If he sees another Jace on the carousel, I think he should consider taking.
Tien has a Lulu 2 right now. How in the world do
Wow.
you get a Lulu 2 by 4-3? I would imagine Nico's involved as well, but man, just simply, finding 2 Lulus like that, that's crazy. He's already level 8, so he does have that 6% chance, and he's not
Whew.
gonna win the round, but that is gonna be scary once a little bit more of that comes online.
Yeah, exactly. Once that Lulu starts to get itemization,
Mhm. I think the issue there is that
oh,
he's sacrificing
hmm.
a little bit of the Brawler Void power, whether I don't remember if he cut the Sorcerer or if he cut one of the Brawlers to fit the Lulu in there, and, it might not be worth it yet. It's hard to tell. It's always tricky in that situation with that comp.
Yeah, I think you can cut one of the brawlers because even though it does reduce your tankiness, you gain a lot of utility, which kind of
Yeah,
does the same thing, which is keep your composition alive as long as possible. So I,
that's
I
the
think it's fine.
idea.
You play three brawlers. Alternatively, if he has a spatula item to help make use of it, say the celestial, he can play Lulu and celestials,
Yes.
and then just play three brawlers.
Yep, that is true. TN also did get the Force of Nature as well.
Oof.
So he's at level 8, but he's got 9 slots. So I might have missed it. He might have ever had everything. I missed it anyway.
All
GA
right,
for Darius. So,
no key,
uh,
3-star
ooh,
Jace.
wow. All right.
Big moment here for Gunmay and another Shinzao. One more Darius. Oh, geez.
Yep.
Another Cassidon. He's been kind of selling Cassidons. I think he wants to roll down just for the 3 stars here.
Yeah.
Another Ash. It's
Well,
tough. When I
he's
play this composition, I always feel like I want everything. I pick up every Cassidon, every Ash, and I realize, oh, I'm broke and I'm dead.
yeah, that's the thing is that the Cassidon and the Ash, especially the Ash, are not necessarily 3-star at all. Again, I'm talking about this a lot because I just like sat down with Gunmay and like really in depth went through a Space Jam game with him. And one of the things he emphasized was that like Ash 3 is like way low priority. Like you just don't worry about the Ashes. And Cassidon, if you can hit it, great, but also, not like the greatest priority.
Right.
Xin
Oh
3.
my goodness. All right. Well, Gunmay is going to be set for a while, so we can go ahead and swap to somebody else's perspective. We're going to jump onto KitingIsHard, who
Hmm.
is playing the Void Brawler build, but he's got the demo spat on his Vel'Koz, which is going to be very intimidating to deal with because demo spat, as we said, is one of the most powerful items in the game,
Yeah,
and he's
getting
got
a
it on a wide AoE champion.
Yeah, a big area of effect stun like Vel'Koz is going to give you with that is huge. Late
Mhm.
game, he can swap out that Ziggs to a Gangplank, which is also strong, but it's Void v Void here. Oh no, it's not. It's
No.
Kiyoon moving towards theoretically a Kale comp or a Jin comp, but for now playing some Sorks.
It looks like Kiyoon is playing the Korean Jin
Interesting.
comp,
He's
and
trying.
he's playing also champions like Vel'Koz, which incidentally makes life for kiting a lot harder because it's very contested.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good move from Kiyoon to try and disrupt his opponent's play while also playing his best board. And you can see that Kiyoon's board doesn't look good, but he's preserved so much HP to the point where it looks like that he at least won't be finishing eighth here.
Yeah. I've started actually holding Vel'Koz and Cho'Gath in pretty much all my lobbies, even if I'm not playing Void, because having played a lot of games of Void, there's a big difference between a Cho 1 and a Cho 2, and a Vel'Koz 1 and a Vel'Koz 2. And the longer you
Right.
can deny that from one of the Brawler Void players in the lobby, the more HP you're going to cost them. It's almost
Mhm.
like you're beating them and taking their HP as well in fights, even though you're not actually fighting them. just by making them
Right.
lose other fights.
Yeah. And this is a pretty tough spot for Kiting. A lot of his army is 1 star, so while he has pretty good items, to be honest, he's kind of lacking in the substance department for his army. His Cho, his Ziggs, his Kaisa, his Vel'Koz, all 1 star. So going to
Yeah,
8, trying to see what he can hit. And chances are, he has only the 4 brawler buff, but he's just going to go ahead and forgo that because he wants to get more of his power spike,
right.
and that's it. He's done. So he really has to make this count if he can.
Yeah, didn't really find a whole lot. Gets the Zezrot portal on the Malphite too, so at least that's a little bit stronger front line. But yeah, it is rough right now for KitingIsHard.
Yeah, he also was posting on social media yesterday about how his lobbies and how there's like a lot of void players or just reroll compositions being the top. And
Mm,
one of the things that we bring up pretty often is how is Kiting's mentality, because he is very good, but at the same time sometimes it seems like he is an enemy of himself if he kind of
mm,
lets himself get in his own head. I imagine he's totally fine right now. Just one of the things to monitor is that is a storyline that seems to be following Kiting, because
sure.
he is very vocal about his thoughts on the state of the game.
Well, that can be a double-edged sword. It's always good to get pro players' opinions, but it's all about how they're communicated, you know?
Yep. You can see him
Uh-oh.
taking tabs on everyone else. Khroen and Tien are contesting. Both those players actually hit Vel'Koz too, and that's actually a
Yeah,
really big deal because in this late game scenario, Kha'Zix is great, but Kha'Zix's job is only to do one thing, which is snipe the carry, and then after that, he doesn't really do too much unless he's completely ignored. The
right.
real meat to this delicious platter known as Void Brawler is the squid, the calamari, the Vel'Koz.
Very
And it's at a
true.
1 star unit right now.
Well, especially when you have the demo spat, like, you're putting everything you can into that Vel'Koz, and that's a good, stun, but Jace
Yeah.
living for a long time, though, those
Oh,
shields coming
no.
through.
Oh, the Trap Claw.
Yep, but he's got the, protector spat. Look at all the shields being gained, and in the end, Darius just doesn't lose any health.
Yeah, just too much HP and not
Yeah.
enough power, right? We saw the
Oh,
Vel'Koz
hey,
got off 3 times, and it didn't do anything?
I would sell that Ziggs in a heartbeat and pick up the, GP.
Yeah, because the AoE is way better than the single target.
Yeah.
I think he's looking if he can afford to do that. Just his eco is basically is basically in shambles completely.
Well, you've
He's
only got
counting the
4
number of
gold.
Chos, and I think there legitimately might not be any more Chos in the game.
Really?
I think so because he's holding 2. He saw 2 other players holding 2. He saw one. I think he saw 2 players at 2-star Cho, which means that would be put him at 12. AKA, there's no more Chos in the pool.
Yeah, I think you might be right. It's definitely a comp that doesn't support more than 2 people playing it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And so
Well,
if 3 people are going for it, one will suffer dramatically. And it looks like he's still hanging in there. Unide's comps also falling off, but looks like he is saving up to go to 9, or at
yep,
least go for a massive roll down soon.
it's possible. With Shredder, the more synergies you can put in, the better. Wow, how about a Wukong with a GA? Or how about just a GA in general?
Yeah,
Some good
GA
items on
seems
this
to be good.
carousel.
Probably good to put that onto a Malphite or his choke. I just give him some time, I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
Meanwhile, we're
with
going to hop onto someone else's POV.
with Kazakh's already having that GA, you probably don't need another one on your carries. Lev
Ooh.
D Trotskij, let's see what he's going for. Looks like a little bit of a Kale build, itemizing the Aurelia as well, but he doesn't have a single offensive item on his whole team.
Yeah, and I like that. I like this a lot, and I think this shows a difference in mentality compared to what we see some other people who approach this match or this composition, because they look at Kale and they think, I need all offensive items. But he's trying his best to play his best board while preserving his HP, and that usually comes to the power of defensive items. That being said, it seems like he just hasn't really hit some of these really expensive units like Thresh and the Echo. And while they're like pretty solid units, they're pretty mediocre in this stage of the game.
Yeah, you're going to be pulling in a Kassadin who's going to be nice, pulling in a Lulu, and that's nice as well. But yeah, there's definitely some glaring weaknesses with this. His big strength is the Aurelia. That's a big stun,
Uh-oh.
though. Yeah,
Yeah.
GP stun came in. Kale trying to do the damage that she can.
Mm.
Oh, that Vel'Koz on the back. Yeah.
Uh-oh, and Lev looks like he is dead. That's too big of a loss. Losing by 5 to 6 units in this stage usually means death at that health. So Lev, game number 1, not going his way, as he tried to play pretty flexibly, but wasn't really working out. Meanwhile, I've seen this build,
No
the
kidding.
5
Deisik.
cybernetics, 2 Vanguard build, very popular in my games when I'm playing it.
It's the I can't find the Echo build. Yeah, it's a classic, man. Yeah, but Deisik
Yeah.
has loved playing cybernetics over the months here, so no surprise to see him go for that. And hey, I mean, if the mid set PBE is any indication, cybernetics is going to be pretty strong. So maybe Daisik's going to have a little bit of a head start compared to everybody else that's been ignoring cybers for a while.
Yeah, it's a painful situation to be in. In fact, people were starting to catch on to the fact that there are a lot of players out there that don't necessarily explore nearly as much. Maybe they don't have time or they don't feel comfortable enough doing it. And so
Mhm.
they kind of copy people's builds that are posted on, say, the competitive TFT subreddit. And so
Uh,
there was a trend where people started posting fake guides. Wow, look at that Irelia. Maybe you
yeah,
don't need 6 cybernetic. But they were posting fake guides, and one person decided to post a 5 cybernetics 3 chrono build, which was pretty funny. But obviously, yeah. And then everyone in the comment section was like, "Oh, this worked for me. Just climb from bronze 3 to challenger. Thank you."
yeah. Spoiler alert: anything works to climb, from bronze to probably diamond, as long as your economy is good. Challenger,
Yeah,
I don't know about that though. That sounds
yeah,
hard to
it's super
believe.
funny. So, quick evaluation, some mediocre items, except for that QSS that looks super good. This Shojin is very, very good if he can find a single Thresh or Lulu.
Mhm.
It would be super powerful, big spike in his power level if he's able to find it, but not going to hold his breath. Right now, it looks like Daisik's kind of also suffering some waiting for Echo syndrome.
That's right. Waiting for Mr. Echo. And there's Aurelian Soul. All right. Oh, there's Xerath. And this is what how always happens. This is why I don't play cybernetics. Like I just refuse to because I've had way too many games like this where you're like, oh, this seems like a good cyber start, and then just Echo doesn't exist in the game anymore apparently. So
Yeah.
yeah, this
Oh,
is
interesting.
reinforcing it. I mean, he's putting all the items on that he would put on the Echo on the Leona right now, or not on the Leona, putting it, that is interesting though. Huh.
Yeah.
Wait a
So
second.
one thing about cybernetics, even though you're trying to play 6, is that
Yeah.
for a lot of compositions that play 3 cybernetics, you don't have to actually go to 6. But the Shojin just makes it so it's super tanky. Kind of imagine like if Leona's ability makes it feel kind of like a Bramble Vest or Dragon's Claw, you just give it more uptime. The problem is that he doesn't actually have any real meat to the bones here. Only carry is Irelia, and she got stuck on the frontliner, and that's the 7th place for Daisik.
Yep.
So 2 cybernetic core players end up taking bottom 2 holding hands.
I have
Hate
never
to
been
see
a
it.
fan of the Leona 3, and that's why, is that she can get her shield really fast. Oh, he was holding echoes. Khroen purposefully denying the echo. It's not an infiltrator you would generally put into this comp. Although you could, I suppose he is thinking maybe I do go
Yeah.
for infiltrator here, but no, I think it's nice to just deny that from the cyber player too.
Well, I mean, I think there's multiple reasons. Therefore, when you have confluence of reasons, what the heck is this Kha'Zix doing? He just actually walked all the way back to the back line. Oh, if Khroen loses that, this Kha'Zix still doesn't know where to attack.
Well, he's
I
he's
can't believe
close.
it.
I
He
think he
might
can win this.
lose. Oh
Okay.
my gosh. That would have been such a heartbreaking way to lose that fight if Khroen's Kha'Zix basically was looking for his keys the whole time.
So this is one of the reasons, as we see our top 4 established for game number 1. This is one of the reasons why itemizing Vel'Koz has once again become kind of the priority in a lot of cases. Oh, look, Fizz too. Because with the changes to infiltrators where they jump immediately, your Kha'Zix can get in like weird situations where, if you miss position compared to your Blitzcrank, Kha'Zix jumps on someone that just gets yoinked away, or he jumps and gets immediately targeted by 4 people. So it's a little bit harder to get the usefulness out of the Kha'Zix 3 now.
Woo!
So the pressure has gone back over on Vel'Koz to be the carry, but here we go.
Look at this position from Khroen. gets the shroud onto the KO3. Can KO3 be stopped by the time that she gets active? She's getting knocked up constantly. She finally awakens, but it might not be enough because she just wakes up and one-shots everything. Khroen out in
Whoa.
fourth, Kiting out in fifth, Void Brawlers finishing fourth and fifth, but there's still one more Void Brawler player, I believe, in Tien.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, nobody beats Kale 3. Like it's nearly impossible. But right off the bat, we see Kiyoon, widely, sometimes mildly criticized for being a me mech only player. Right away, going top 3 with not mech. It's
Yeah,
a
I
new
think
era.
anybody that criticized Kiyoon wasn't being serious, and those who did seriously criticize Kiyoon was widely misinformed.
Yeah.
He plays mech because he really likes the playstyle. It's also super effective, and also, quite frankly, like it was a good branding thing for his stream because Kiyoon was so good at it,
Hmm.
and also when you stream, you get the challenge of having to multitask talking to a chat that loves to backseat you. So
Sure.
Kiyoon has a very interactive stream, very fun to watch. Probably my second or third favorite stream to watch in TFT. Definitely top three. Um, and it's largely because he's so community focused, is one way to put it.
Yeah. Well, this is
But
crazy,
yeah, this
actually.
KO3, like you're saying, is borderline unstoppable. I love the blade masters there. I think that's a really nice touch to give a secondary carry. A lot of times you struggle to itemize Irelia. Zare doesn't need much to carry, to be quite honest.
Mhm.
You just need to give him to 2-star, give him some attack speed.
I mean, he also has, he also has that Blade Master spat, like you mentioned, to just do
Oh,
insane damage, and he has 3 Dark Stars as well. So that Xerath powers up throughout the game, and yeah,
wow.
shouldn't be tough. I think we're looking at Kiyoon taking first in this lobby. I don't
Yep.
know how Gunmay beats this.
Love the KO3. Love basically everything that I see about this composition. I think Kiyoon played very flexibly, had, of course, a rough idea of what he wanted to do, but has pivoted. Most people say at this point in the game, do you even want 4 Chrono? And it looks like he's just making best use of his units. His
Yeah,
positioning looks constantly evolving, and he's just trying to dodge that Zephyr from the Jace. That's like the most important thing, and gonna go ahead and once again swap back to the original position. Gunmay can't catch it in time, and
it's so
that's
hard to catch that Kale or to catch one
yeah,
specific target with your Zephyr. He just settles for the Xerath, but like, because you can move that Kale anywhere and she'll be effective, right? So it's just a crapshoot as
exactly.
far as like where you're gonna try to go to Zephyr it. And I think this game is gonna be over pretty soon. Even
Yeah.
Darius 3 with the protector spat is not gonna be able to handle this.
Oh, a lot of damage, but not enough. And the thing is, I think Gunmay has capped out too. He's hit 3 stars on like half his army. Unless this item that Gunmay gets from the Rift Herald is game breaking in some capacity that I'm not thinking about. It's another redemption. I don't think
I
that's
don't
going to
think
be a
redemption
key.
is it.
I think it would have to be like another Zephyr, and it would just double his chances to land the Zephyr on Kale because that's the only shot that he has. And even then, we
Mm.
saw Kale go 1v6 because the moment she finally stopped getting knocked up by the Void Brawler composition, she just started gaining a bunch of health from her Celestial, and her stage her 3-star version does so much damage that it helps her just one shot everything.
Yeah, that's the thing is she doesn't even need anyone else on the team to just win. You could probably just put the Kale 3 in there by yourself, and she'd probably just still win once
I
she
mean,
went off anyway.
what's so scary is that Kiyoon can actually get stronger because he has Thresh as a possibility, and
Oh yeah,
like Thresh on the bench with this Shojin is actually super nutty. Oh my gosh,
right.
this
All
is
of
okay.
those Wukong, Soraka, Kassadin, immediately big impact if they get pulled in.
I was thinking, how can Kiyoon get that much stronger? And it looks like he somehow has done it.
Hmm.
And
This
Gunmay
is the
says,
thing to
"Screw it!
be.
I forget trying to catch the K. I'm just gonna confront you immediately."
Yeah, you
Oh,
just gotta try to get there as fast as you can, I guess.
yeah,
Darius
not gonna
slamming
work
in.
out
No,
at
I don't think
all.
so.
This
Uh,
Kale
and
destroying everything.
you saw like Jace 3 just kill like 3 people on the front line like nothing, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That is it. And Kiyoon with the Kale 3 coming in, taking a win here in game number 1 for him.
Very impressive game number one from Kiyoon, especially because I think a lot of people were wondering how he would approach tournament now that one, mech has been nerfed, but also because people don't really play mech very often. Wouldn't that theoretically be the time to play mech? And Kiyoon, being, as you said, accused of being a one trick for a while,
Yeah.
demonstrates his proficiency and why he is rightfully number one on NA.
Right. And so after one lobby down, Kiyoon in first place, Gunmay takes second, Tien and Khroen third and fourth. KitingIsHard narrowly missing out, ending up with fifth there. And then you need Deisik and Lev D Trotskij rounding out our bottom three. So the season one veterans taking the top four basically.
Yep. And so, kind of an expected result, so to speak, in terms of when you look at it, you're like, yeah, that makes sense, right? These players are very good, all got like in the specific standings, and players
Mhm.
that didn't, maybe they low rolled, but it doesn't. It's not really a blemish or an indictment on anybody who's in the bottom four. But the top
All
four
right.
does make sense. But that also makes you think, wow, this is such a stacked lobby because you can kind of rearrange almost any permutation and think, oh, that also makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this, I think this may be like the most stacked TFT tournament yet, in terms of just sheer talent from multiple regions. It's really difficult to predict who's going to end up winning this, because there's like at least 75% of the players I'd be comfortable saying, "Oh yeah, I think they'll win the whole thing." So we'll see.
That's right. So, when you look at um the lobby composition too, like the texture of all the compositions, there were three void brawler players. They finished third, fourth,
Mhm.
and fifth. There were three players that were trying to play like a pink composition, flexible, like is it a Kale, Irelia carry composition? And it was first, seventh, and eighth, and then you had a couple of shades in between. Gunmay playing Space Jam, Unit playing Zaya, and there's a
Right.
noticeable absence of Jinx in that lobby, which kind of makes me think that if someone chose to play it, that also would have been a pretty good power spike because Jinx compositions or Rebels are still, in my opinion, one of the best compositions in the game. And I'm
Oh, I
kind of
agree.
surprised that nobody played a Jinx composition.
And I wonder if the spatula start had an effect with that because, although we did mention Rebel Spat being, powerful, that is something that oftentimes you can't use until late in the game, for a variety of reasons. One, because that's just kind of when you would fit in that extra Rebel. Another is that having to dedicate a chain vest to that is a big thing to ask in the early and mid game in a lot of games at TFT. So I think honestly the spatula start had like a pretty big impact on not a lot of rebel players or no rebel players actually in the first lobby.
Yeah, and again, another really impressive thing is that like in that spatula start, I really thought Kiyoon would try to go for a mech. Instead, he went for a Blade Master spat, right? Above everything else. That is so interesting to think about.
Mhm.
And perhaps possibly why he might be the biggest threat in this lobby right now. But it's one game, and it is our job to have knee-jerk reactions as casters. And I think it's only
Hype.
rightful to say that Kiyoon will never lose another game of TFT.
Yeah, I think we can declare him as the winner for pretty much at least 2020, if not 2021 and 2022 as well.
Uh, okay. Chat's saying
Seems
that he went
reasonable.
for the Force of Nature and then got the Blade Master spat later. Okay. We didn't get
Oh,
to
okay.
follow this POV, but one
Yeah,
way you can is if you go to the Jute link that's being posted in chat and also on the panels, because then you can watch every player's POV, including the winner, Kiyoon. So
that's right.
apologies there. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to track that
Hey,
kind of history, but spectator mode
sure.
is eventually going to come out one day, right, Doa?
One day, hopefully. I dream, wouldn't that be nice when we can actually click on anyone we want and have a much better view of what's actually going on in the game. But hey, for now, I shout out to our producer, giving us the different views. We influence that a little bit. He makes good choices as well as far as who we follow, and we kind of try to get a good broad overview of what's happening in the lobby. But hey, it's like you said, exclamation point GSS, and you can pick any player's POV to watch. Thanks to juke.gg for sponsoring the tournament and also just creating a cool site to do things like that with. So yeah, if you don't want to watch us, that's okay. We want you to become fans of these players more than fans of us. Obviously, that's the point.
Yeah. So, as we get ready for like the mid-state expansion here, the last patch here, 10.11, is going to be the last effective patch. Then in 2 weeks, so not next week, but the week after,
Right.
we're going to have that mid-state expansion because it's June 10th. In just a little over a week, Doa, the first
I'm
half
so
of set
psyched.
3 will officially be done, and then we
I'm
get to
so
play
excited.
with all the new stuff. There's Astro, the Astro synergies, the battle cast. Of course, Janna's now in there with Paragon. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't actually been playing much PB because with Giant Slayer coming on, I went back onto the live server and started climbing again.
Mhm.
But I've been paying attention to the changes, and I hope that wherever we land on for PP is going to be in a really good spot because I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of PBE, but I'm in the same boat too, where it's like, as commentators, we kind of have to be most familiar with the state of the game as we see it right here. So I've been on the regular ladder as well, grinding away. Another star cluster, really, 2 in a row. That's crazy. And so we'll see what the grabs are. At least it's a normal carousel starting things off. On board with Kiyoon, our winner of Lobby 1.
Yeah, another star cluster, and I think star cluster has generally been a positive galaxy in terms of the reception from the player base. I think a lot of the players, their first reaction to galaxies, especially ones that change a lot of the fundamental rules on their head, like
Mhm.
a little legends or a medium legends, is kind of met with resistance because it feels like the way that you're supposed to play doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, when you look at galaxies like Star Cluster, it's kind of what they're trying to intend to do with a lot of these mechanics, which is you're
Mhm.
introduced with intermittent, randomness and variance, and how do you adapt to that, and how do you
Yeah.
formulate a game plan around it?
Well, the funny thing, I've been thinking about this a lot lately as we check out Kiyun's early picks. He's got a free Zaya too right there. That's pretty nice. But we'll see if he gets it. But the conclusion I've sort of gotten to is that I view different galaxies as I would view different maps in StarCraft. I don't know why, but I feel like I find so many StarCraft sort of comparisons in TFT. And so in different maps in StarCraft, a lot of times you do have to play the game very differently. You know, the landscape changes literally in StarCraft that you have to adapt to, and in TFT the landscape changes figuratively in terms of what galaxy you're on. So you need to be familiar with different builds, different ways to execute different builds. And so, again, I feel like this isn't something that's unprecedented in a competitive game, and so I enjoy it.
I think it's a great analogy. I've heard several of them, and you mentioned StarCraft. To me, you're one of the first people to talk about how it feels like StarCraft to you, and I've been thinking about that as well. So I think that's a pretty apt description there. And ultimately, balance does change with the galaxies, right? Like certain things
Yep.
are much stronger. Reroll compositions are much better on medium legends. They're a lot worse on at least the extended ones like Mech and whatnot. They're a lot worse on little legends and so on and so forth. And we got to see Star Cluster give a big buff to Space Jam, right? For Gunmay to get that 3-star Jace reliably, he had to get that first 2-star Jace off that carousel.
Right.
And I wonder if he's going to try to adopt something similar as the game develops here.
I mean, he probably isn't going to be contested if he tries it. So why not? Sometimes you can just sort of like force that space jam in a galaxy like this, just by
Right.
virtue of the fact that you're good at it. Probably no one else is going to try to contest you, and hey, that means you could probably top 4 if you play it well. So we'll
Sure.
see what he does.
So right off the bat here, Kiyoon has a set of pretty interesting decisions. The first is that he got a Caitlyn and picked up 2 more Caitlyn's. And he can actually play that new Caitlyn carry composition that we've seen,
True.
but it's not very reliable if you don't have any swords to start off or any bows.
Yeah, that's
I was
that's
also thinking about just kind of jamming a red buff and then seeing because you had Lucian and 2 Graves, and now you have 3
oh
Graves. So this makes me think that we can just kind of play a brawler blaster, maybe a rebel blaster composition that utilizes Jinx as your fundamental cornerstone because it seemed like it was being uncontested in the last game.
right.
And I also am curious to see if players like Khroen, Tien, and Kiting will pivot off of those strategies and not really favor Void Brawler.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. People have kind of started to shy away from Void Brawler a little bit in the meta. Brawlers tend to be a little bit more contested. Jinx is contested by rebels. So the comp is as seen. He's trying to see if he needs to keep this Graves alive a little bit more. But the comp has definitely seen a lot more struggles lately than in the past. But I don't think it's bad. And I think obviously Lucian with the red buff is still a major carry in the early game. He's going to sell it here. But I don't think there's anything wrong with going with that. But you look at other adaptations as well. Like sometimes you see people do like 2 Vanguard, 2 Brawler, 4
Oh,
Blasters. So there's ways to adapt.
yeah, this is a sick shop here. Double Shen.
Yeah.
He's gonna go ahead and scout. Sees a Deathblade. Sees 8 Kazakhs
Oh,
by
okay.
Deisik. Are you kidding me? TN with the Void Brawler start as well.
Yeah, but a much slower Kha'Zix start, and that's something to definitely
Yeah.
think about. Although it is a build that supports 2 players, just not 3.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Kiyoon is intentionally trying to throw this fight because he doesn't want to win and therefore can get a good carousel pick. And
Mhm.
on Star Cluster, this is one of the decisions that I think is pretty interesting, which is intentionally losing so that you can improve your carousel positioning is actually a very viable strategy. And that's not something that we always could say confidently in this set because, the set has basically, ever since the gold changes, made it really difficult for people to guarantee that they'll be able to make that comeback if they intentionally lose in the beginning.
Yeah, the gold changes, also the, HP, damage changes definitely makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking. How about a Lucian too with a chain vest? Wow, if you wanted to go Brawler
Wow.
Blaster, that is
Wow,
what
wow,
you
wow,
want
wow, wow,
right
wow.
there.
That is
He's gonna get
huge.
it. Yep. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that suddenly changes your entire early game prospects. That's so strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably has to sell that Graves, which is not that big of a deal. But
Doesn't feel good, but you can.
no, it doesn't feel good at all. It doesn't feel good at all. And I think that, this two-star Lucian can help start to pull him back here. He doesn't want
Yeah.
to lose too much HP. Star Cluster is one of those things where you do feel like you want first pick on the carousel every single time, but as we know, preserving HP is very valuable.
Also, with, higher star minions in general on the other side, you're gonna
Yeah,
be running into the potential of losing more HP, if you do go on that loss streak, so it does get a
yeah,
little bit scary. Jumping on board with, TN now, and just kinda trying to play his strongest board as he mulls over his options. Looks like Void is what he wants to go, especially after building that Morello's on Kaisa. Oh, yeah, he's definitely going Void. He sold everything else. It's
yeah.
just Void.
It seems like TN is one of those players that really likes to just kind of go in with the game plan and just try to follow that game plan as straightforward as he can.
Yep.
Um, and so the Void Brawler, with two Kha'Zix, it's unlikely that he's going to be able to go for a 3-star Kha'Zix in his roll down in mid-kind, especially if Deisik has 8 Kha'Zix already. He's not going to be able to beat him in terms of getting to the Kha'Zix 3, barring an extraordinary series of rolls and outcomes.
It is tougher. It's possible, like the lobby, as we know from like the billion shredder games that have been played over the last month or two, the lobby definitely supports multiple 3-star one cost units. But I think what you were saying, which makes a lot of sense, is that your likelihood of hitting them just goes way down if someone else is rolling down for it too.
Yeah. And, there's other people that are contesting for it. He saw at least 2 other players that are showing that they're going to try to at least consider the Void Brawler.
Yeah.
And so what he might end up doing is simply leveling. One way that you can combat this is to get just a 2-star Kha'Zix, forget trying to get 3-star, level aggressively, start to itemize for Vel'Koz, and focus on your positioning and your eco
Right.
instead of rolling.
It does take a lot to make sure your positioning is correct with this build. Your infiltrators really need to be jumping on the right people. And was that Gunmay going Space Jam again? I didn't see for a second. I didn't catch the names.
I
But
mean,
oh
it wouldn't
no.
surprise me if that was the case. I thought I saw Kiting had a 2-star Darius as well, but
Okay.
these are moving really fast.
Yeah. And like we mentioned, and like Gunmay just showed us, it is Space Jam is viable on this galaxy, and so we might see more people going for it this time. This is a scary round. With only a Kha'Zix one and a Kaisa one. Oh man, I would be a little bit nervous about
Right.
beating the Terror Bursters here.
Yeah, it's a
Good luck,
clever
Tien.
positioning trick here from Tien, though. He's
Sure.
using his Blitzcrank to pull from one side and then just focusing on the left side.
Yeah, exactly. So one gets pulled, one focuses a blitzcrank, so it lets him get the isolate damage from his Kha'Zix, lets him focus it down. You're sacrificing your blitzcrank to do that, but it should be enough, I
Yeah,
believe.
it's going to be okay because he has Morello. Morello will stop the heal on the Terror Burster. So it'll be fine completely. Finds.
Huh. Not the greatest items. Tier is always nice for the Vel'Koz or later, yeah.
Right.
And you know what? I mean, honestly, the chain vest, that's half a GA, and you need a GA on Kha'Zix in this build, so I guess you've
Okay.
got some okay stuff there.
He's gonna roll past 40 is what I want to know. And I think you can see kind of what he's thinking already, which is he just got his third Kha'Zix. To get 6, if rolling all the way down seems very optimistic. So he's gonna stop here. I think he's gonna either slow roll or prioritize leveling here. And I think
Right.
both strategies are completely valid.
Yep. You don't need the Kha'Zix 3 to make the Void build work. You do rely on 2 4-cost minions in the Cho'Gath and the Vel'Koz. So at some point, you need to get to the point where you can find those. So yeah, you can definitely do that. But then you're going to lose to all the other
Oof.
players that hit the Kha'Zix 3.
Yeah,
I like the
Deisik.
Frozen Heart as well. That's a nice little adaptation you see sometimes that I think is pretty strong because you're slowing down all the carries.
Yep, and the Dasik looks like he is just going to have a clear pathway to get to level 8 here with that Kha'Zix. So now the onus is on the rest of the lobby. You need and Gunmay both leveling at 6. Khroen's still undefeated, so there's still a lot of other happenings around this battlefield here.
Oh
But
yeah.
it does look like the Void Brawler is still very contested as it should be. Many people crown it as the king of the meta.
Yep, I think it's definitely one of the ones that's way up there right now. Now Khroen
Oh,
is going for the Rebels build, I think.
yeah, it looks like he is. Also, it seems to me that there's multiple Space Jam players.
Right.
No,
So
it doesn't seem like this is Space Jam from Gunmay. Looks like he is just playing best board and picking up units like Kale for his bench. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
yeah, he's keeping himself open, and he is a player that wants people to see him as a variety player, like a player that is able to do a bunch of different compositions and be very adaptable during games. So I think he wants to play Space Jam, but you can see keeping himself open for cybernetics there as well, or maybe blasters even. We got a couple options. Kaisa too. That's you're gonna sell her eventually, but it's nice to hit at this point in the game for TN being down to 70 HP. Trying to find that Kha'Zix before while he still at least has the 40% chance, but no luck.
Yeah, and right now I think for Tian he's just kind of a sitting duck. There's actually discussion amongst high-level challenger players if they should all just kind of look at who's playing Void and try to position for them because stage 3 is their weakest point,
Yeah,
unless they hit the Kha'Zix 3 like Dasik. So from here, Tian he's expecting to lose for pretty much the rest of the stage. And it's all about if he can stay above 50 by the end of the stage. And sometimes you don't.
pretty much. Funny enough, like I was actually spamming Void games yesterday in my Diamond One lobbies, so it's like a mix of Diamond and Master players in those. And I had multiple Void games where I was down to like sub 30 HP, and then you hit your 2-star Cho and your 2-star Vel'Koz, and then you come back and get top 4. So it's even losing all the way through round 3. If you just kind of like keep trying to position as best you can, take like as light of losses as possible, you can still absolutely come back in top 4 from this position.
Yeah, and there's an argument here that Tien might should consider rolling a little bit. The soft rolling, of course, helps you get things like maybe Kha'Zix if you get super lucky. Maybe he spikes a TF to get to 3-star as well. But at level 5 and 6, you still have that chance of hitting that Cho'Gath and that Vel'Koz. So if he's able
Right.
to get that Void online, he might consider doing that instead of just purely using his gold to level.
True enough. KitingIsHard is definitely going Space Jam here, putting all the components together and deciding who he's going to put in here. Needs that 4th Celestial. That's what he's searching for right now.
Right.
Yep, looking
And
for
a
the
big
app.
difference, as you can see, that for Celestial, it was something that we were talking about with Gunmay's Spatula start. Oh
Mhm.
no, Kiting missed the opportunity to put that Jarvan in the last second. Instead, another Shinzao automatic got put in, but incidentally, it ends up being the Blitzcrank bait. So I
Yep.
guess all's well that ends well.
Totally intentional. Yeah. Great
Yeah,
prediction by KitingIsHard. Impressive stuff.
very, very impressive.
But
Look at
this is
this
one of those
death threat by
situations.
Ziggs, by the way. That's
How much
pretty unusual.
that is weird.
It just seems purely like an item holder until he finds Jinx.
Yeah, I guess
Or
so.
if he ends up finding like Jin and you could just kind of play the Jin carry composition.
True. Jace 2, always nice to see.
Yep, Jace 2, a big moment
I
in
would
this
be
composition.
I would be upset right now. There's the Ash. Okay, I was gonna say I'd be upset right now that I haven't found the Ash yet. Because until you get Force Celestial, you're gonna be kind of weak. But now that he has it, he's got a really good chance of stabilizing here and hemorrhaging or stopping the HP hemorrhage.
Yeah, he's preserved a lot of HP up until this point.
It's pretty good.
So losing, he's not going to lose too much more here. You could argue that maybe you should consider slamming a Zephyr to preserve even more HP because he's still a ways away from being able to like fully stabilize and start winning again. It seems like he's just going to slowly bleed out HP until he finds his first 3-star.
Yeah, I think the other big problem is that he just doesn't have a very good defensive item on Darius right now. So there's no sustain, right? Because at some point in a round with Space Jam, Darius is going to get stopped, whether he dies or he just gets hung up on a trap claw or someone to GA. And so you need something to ensure that Darius can keep jamming. And he has half of a Guardian Angel right now. So what you're really looking for is maybe a QSS, but I really prefer GA on the Darius.
Yeah, I think most people would agree. Does look like, by the way, we have a mech player in the lobby, and Kiyoon, when he grabbed that second vest, seems to have his game plan was to primarily play mech, and he is at 53 HP. So we'll see if Kiyoon can once again have his patent and mech comeback, as he is so good at it. But it's
Time
all
to
about
come
how long
online.
how long it takes for him to stabilize.
Yeah.
Ooh,
All right. Well, I mean, there's some useful items in there. The Ionic Spark on Darius is great. You could still, yeah, you're still missing a good defensive item though. That's the problem. Something like
yeah,
I
Dragon Claw's
because
good.
see, I don't know. Dragon Claw I think is strong, but where you've got a meta with so much void, I think you're gonna find that it's gonna be kind of just a dead item spot in a lot of rounds that end up being very important. So
That's
I like
fair.
the build with the Ionic Spark a little bit more here.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think Ionic Spark is probably the most important item on Darius.
Yeah,
Um,
with Void
yeah,
until Void's out of the game, I just don't see Dragon Claw as like a very viable item unless like you literally have nothing else to do with those cloaks.
yeah, or you're playing Void Brawler yourself, and you're like going up against
Yeah,
Rebel
sure.
compositions like Dragon's Claw is sometimes okay there. But yeah, in TFT, there's definitely a lot of meta shifts where something can look really good, and all of a sudden, the next patch it looks completely awful. Oh,
Right.
another Shinzao.
And I suppose no one can deny that Xinjiao with like Bramble Vest, Dragon Claw, like Titan's Resolve is still insanely strong.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we'll see. Right now, he just wants that GA. Chain Vest is like definitely the priority for KitingIsHard right now to finish that Guardian Angel for Darius.
And I'm curious that if whether or not Kiting will consider using his Nico on the first unit that he can to get 3-star, because that's your first significant mid game power spike
Mhm.
for Space Jam. Unless you want to argue this is the late game, but either way, he needs to get the 3-stars online. Otherwise, he's going to continue just slowly losing here.
I would call 4-2 like the late mid game.
End of the
What do you
mid
think?
game.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like I think like
Yeah,
4 is like the end of the mid game basically.
Yeah, I would say I would definitely say that because it's a transitionary period, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
are going to fast 8, a lot of people are rolling down one last time for their hyper rolls. Like it really does begin the end, even though
Mhm.
it really isn't by itself. So yeah, interesting spot here. Does he use the Nico on the Darius, or does he just going to keep losing? Because if he does lose, he still improves his chance to get a good carousel spot. It is very tight between wave 3 versus wave 2.
Yeah, I think if I were him, I would at least wait until the next round after the carousel because you know, like I mentioned, getting the GA on Darius is priority. So you actually probably don't want to win a round right now, especially when you're on the lost streak and risk missing out on the item. Because if you miss a GA on Darius, then you're probably looking at like a sixth or fifth with this, if you're lucky. And that is a lot of damage though. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
that was
14.
big damage coming out. When you have that many units survive,
Oof.
that's brutal. Even though he has a base stage, Kiyoon also takes an L. So Kiting and Kiyoon, the players to get first pick. What are they gonna do here?
Oh man, the vest is all the way on the other side. He's gonna get it though, it looks like.
There's a
So he's
Darius
okay.
with a rod on it too. Although, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you need that
more
GA
important for
though.
the GA. Yep.
Yeah. He's already got like the
He's got
Darius
8
eye
Darius.
that he
Yeah.
needs. What's a plural of Darius? Darius's Darius eye,
Dairy.
Darium.
Dairy.
Yeah, he's a dairy farmer. Farming the
Exactly.
Darius.
So, GA comes on, but I really want to see how Kiting handles his next turn. He did roll a little bit beyond 50, so if he wants to roll a little bit more, it would kind of, give him that chance to get that 3-star. He hits it.
Hey, all right.
Another
Nice.
Rakan. Oh man, I'd be so tempted to roll down just to 40 again one more time here. But that is a pretty
Yeah.
significant power spike. So maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to. And he does have the chance of making Pirate Gold as well. A very good chance.
Hmm. I think you're probably okay just waiting here, but soon, you know.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, Kiyoon hits Annie 3 and Rumble 3.
Ooh, okay. So the power might be spiking here.
Right. So and Shaco 3 as well. What on earth?
Wow, how did he hit all those?
I
That's
mean,
crazy.
chances are Kiyoon rolled
Oh
all the
no.
way down. Or like
Yeah.
rolled a big portion of his gold. And he was waiting for the last carousel to like get that influx of power. Kiting once again dropping another fight, and he's probably gonna wait another round here because if you're this committed to not using things like Nico's and rolling your gold at
Boy,
4-6, I think you're gonna wait one more round.
close call for Q in there. Yeah, I suppose. Another couple Jaces that always feels good. I think part of it is that we haven't seen him do as much scouting in the last couple rounds here. Sometimes you get kind of hung up on like, oh, should I roll? What do I need? Like thinking about your comp so much that you forget to scout. And this comp, I think, is really important to scout for because you really need to rearrange your front line so that your Darius doesn't get stuck on a big tank. Okay, so
Oh,
he does
okay.
find the Jinjiao 3. But
Yep.
again, not able to find time to do scouting and do any positioning. So he's kind of at the mercy of who he fights.
Yikes. And it immediately gets Zephyr'd, so
That
not even
worked
able to
out.
capitalize onto it. But this Darius is finally popping off, and he's gonna recover some of that gold.
Yep. There we go.
Big
All right.
win here for Kiting.
Yeah, that's huge. When I saw that Wukong won, I was like, okay, there's there's the target.
Okay.
There's the beginning of the dunk chain. And now he's got the neutral round. So he's got a little bit of breathing room here.
Right, and so now he can consider leveling to 7. He's already hit his 2 cost as a 3-star, and it's unlikely he's going to hit Rakan. And he
Hmm.
needs to keep up in levels, so I think he should consider going to 7 here. And then he's going to go ahead and try to memorize the last 4 players he played against to try to maximize his opportunity. Kiyoon, 3-star Shaco with Thief's Gloves, 3-star Rumble as well. Oh gosh. These items
Well,
aren't particularly very good.
I think Frozen Heart is probably the thing you're most excited about here. Obviously, like Chalice and Swordbreaker are the other two choices, which are not super great. But yeah, I'd take a Frozen Heart. Gets the
Okay.
Vanguard to buff the Jace up, which is good.
Yeah, Frozen Heart's all right. It's definitely a very solid item to disrupt the front line.
Yeah, I think it's huge, especially when you need your front line to be taking less damage, so that you have more time for Darius to set up. There we go. Now we get to see him doing a little bit of scouting and repositioning, trying to get closer to that Vel'Koz. Poppy does not stand a chance.
Yeah, so the Vel'Koz in this position is going to chew through a lot of health, but Darius avoids it, gives him a chance to potentially
Oh,
strike back.
GA. Oh, it gets
Oh,
one, but yeah,
yeah. And
that's
now I
still
don't think
rough.
he can afford to wait too much longer. I think he's got to
I
consider rolling down, and so we'll see if he's able to get it.
I agree. But a lot of rounds with kiting is hard. Seeing him try to succeed with Space Jam, but struggling a bit with it. Let's see what Khroen is up to, though. Going from one end of the lobby to the other. Khroen up in first place, going for
Yes.
Rebels build. There you go, Frodan. Now you got your Rebels game.
Well, it's like my favorite itemization of Jinx. This is actually specifically the 3 item combination that I like the most. I think a lot
No
of
defensive
people
item.
look at I like no defensive item Jinx.
Oh, okay.
Um, because it's one of those things where like I've had defensive items on Jinx, but it feels like the outcome of the battle is rarely a close one. I
Hmm.
feel like the more you put offensive items on Jinx like this, you start to either win by a mile or you lose by a pretty big portion. Except if you choose to put 3 offensive items, you increase the chances that you're going to win by a big amount because if Jinx activates, she kills everything. And if she doesn't, your team gets blown out.
Okay, I can see that.
So
Yeah.
I like it, and you don't need to put red buff on her. You can put red buff on Misfortune instead. Obviously, though, if you have Trap Claw or GA or QSS, whatever,
Mhm.
totally fine to play it on her. But just it's my favorite way to play Jinx, which is Deathblade and Runins plus some kind of damage item like IE.
All right, I'll have to try that. I've been doing Deathblade Runes in a defensive item, but I need to be brave. I need to be brave and just forget the defensive item. Apparently, I'll give it a shot.
Yep. So here we go. Just watch the importance of whether or not Jinx can activate. There's not really a secondary carry. This Gangplank is you know, wishful thinking, even though it probably will go off one time because it's not getting focused at all. Surprisingly, I'm
It
kind
actually
of
is.
shocked by that.
Wow. Yeah. Usually when you have a
How did
GP1
that
like that,
happen?
I don't know.
That's some
Luck of the
voodoo
draw.
positioning from Khroen. What the heck?
Number
How did
one
he
in the
do
lobby
that?
for a reason, I guess.
Oh, because I think it's like the Zephyr messed up the other frontline that was supposed to target it, and people like Kha'Zix jumped back, and it was very interesting. I'm curious how that happened.
Yeah, it could be. Yasuo ended up fighting the Kazakhs in that last round.
Mhm.
What's Crone going to be left with here? Maybe like a Redemption and a Star Guardian bangle?
Redemption would be actually one of his best choices because then you can put it on Gangplank. Gangplank's going to die. I don't think you can stop it. Also, honestly, it's not bad just to pick up a second Gangplank to increase the chance you hit GP2.
Yeah, I kind of like that actually. And
Yeah,
Chalice, gives him mana, so GP will cast faster. Nothing wrong with that.
mana printer GP. There you go.
Exactly. He's gone from stealing all of his wealth as a pirate to now just printing it. Like, I don't know.
Counterfeit.
Yeah.
Not that pirates
He's
would
off
care
the
very
gold
much.
standard now.
Yeah. So Gunmay, first on chopping block, kiting right behind him. Deisik still within that zone of safety unless he loses really badly. Everybody else, 2 lives or more. And it's really the Khroen story for game number 2 because he started with that win streak with a very unconventional like Ziggs 2 Deathblade carry,
Mhm.
but really did a good job capitalize onto it. And
Yeah.
now
Really
both
well.
the
Great
Shen
start.
and the Kassadin got disabled, so Gangplank should go off again.
It should. Yeah, the Zephyrs in the front line have really been helping this Gangplank do work. MFL gets cut short there, though, and oh dear, it's
Okay.
over. All right, so strong sort of a shredder build from Lev D in NA. He changed his name.
Yeah, so Lev D, Lev specifically found CC chain on Jinx. And so it's kind of what we're talking about, right? You either lose by a big margin or you win overwhelmingly, which is why, like, when Khrone's on a win streak, everybody else is such lower HP because he was hitting super hard every person he played against.
Yeah.
But we shall see how that's continued to develop. In the meantime, hopping over to Lev's perspective, he's got a lot of CC. He just 2-starred his Kassadin as well. This is looking very sturdy, and I personally like this Celestial heavy build for the Shredder because one, you're itemizing Fiora, love to see it. And so now you have 2 forms of carries, and this Fiora, don't be surprised again if it puts out as much damage as the Zaya.
I'd love to see that. Got
I mean, it
the
certainly will because Zaya died
short.
early in this fight and
Yeah.
Fiora survived. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's very consistent for Lev.
Yeah, seems strong.
Oh my gosh, he's gonna win this fight? There's no way, right?
No,
No.
there's no chance. Like that second Vel'Koz ult, but you wondered for a second, like, and I say you as the royal you, meaning everyone who watched that fight should wonder because close.
What
Wow, those are some
are
items.
those items? That would be so godlike if he still had. I guess he could still put it on Rakan.
So that's a Kane doing his best Kazakh's impression right now.
Right. That's the perfect Kha'Zix 3 items.
Yeah, some people
What
are
on earth?
less high on the rapid fire cannon these days, but yeah, I think it's still, if not the best, one of the best item combos on Kazakhs. Look, he's like, hey, I'm jumping to the back line. I'm a void beast.
Right. I mean, that's fun. I'm very curious also what other items the Kane has given for everybody else.
Yeah, seriously.
2 GAs though. 2 GAs is really big.
Yeah, who'd you put the GA on in this situation though? He's got the Dragon's Claw on Zaya, which is really awkward actually.
Yeah. I would say either Jarvan or like one of the frontliners like Wukong, Shen, just to give the maximum amount of time and flexibility for them to keep the front line busy while Zaya and Fiora slap everything else.
Yeah, I like the Jarvan as well. He might wait with the GA until he knows who he wants to bring back,
Okay.
or just put it on Rakan right away. I think that's okay as well. Oh, hard to put the items on in that situation.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was interesting. I think Lev panicked a little bit
yeah.
and he got blown out. Oh my gosh. Is this like death?
I think
This
he.
might be.
Well, it's gonna be really close. Oh, I think he lives with like two. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. There we go.
jeez.
How do I call that? I didn't even do the math. I just
Well,
guessed.
yeah, one more unit that would have survived would have done him in. But
Yeah.
when you have like your base damage is 6, or sorry, 10 on stage 6. And it's generally accepted you can just estimate that every unit is 2, except 3 stars deal a little bit more damage. So it was looking to me eyeball wise that he might have died.
Yeah. It was very close.
Khroen has lost a lot of his HP lead, and now the fight for top 3 is very close.
Yep.
Deisik might sneak into top 3 as well.
But Khroen can probably feel pretty comfortable that he's going to at least top four. Which, the thing is, if you watch Khroen, like he's one of the most consistent players in TFT, where he seems to always find his way into a top eight. He's usually in that top four conversation. Uh,
Oof.
but oh man, well, and he's totally
Yeah.
eliminating Lev D right now in looks like maybe fifth. Oh
Looks
man, I
like it
think
is 5th.
if okay, so Dasic didn't die. I saw Dasic take a loss to it sub 20 HP, and I was like, oh man, if he ran away, he might have been able to take fourth, but no, it's not the case. Either way, if you're about to lose, you
Wow.
always run as far away from your opponent's little legend as you can.
And what a reversal of things. Daisik found Kha'Zix 3 at 3-1, and yet 3.5 stages later, Tien's the one win streaking, about to close it out. Once more, emphasizing, or rather de-emphasizing, the importance of Kha'Zix 3 and
Yeah,
showing you the importance of positioning, ecoing, leveling. If Tien's able to pull this off and get a win, I'll be very impressed. Although,
we'll see.
again, Void Brawlers is very common to see, so he's probably got a lot of experience in reps in.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Jeez.
winning another one against Khroen. This is a really strong version of the comp with the double Seraphs and Morellos on the Vel'Koz. But I agree with your point just a moment ago, where I think it's more evidence that the priority is shifted back over to Vel'Koz since the infiltrator changes, making Kha'Zix less consistent about who he goes after. So yeah, Tien doing a good job of adjusting to the little variations in how builds need to be played and itemized.
Yeah, Kiyoon's still in 3rd place, so we have a Mech player, a Rebels player, and a Void Brawler player, and you could argue that these are 3 of the strongest comps in the game. I would say Mech is probably a few spots below that in terms of
Hey,
its
there it
peak
is.
power level.
Yeah.
But Malphite 3 at level 8, that's not exactly what I was expecting when you're rolling down, but hey, sometimes it happens.
Yeah, and you saw him pulling out the other one cost so that he would give himself just that slightly higher chance of finding the pool. Probably gonna have to move the
Yeah.
Vel'Koz, although it's one of those situations where it's like, well, if he knows I'm gonna move, then he's not gonna move, or maybe he will move, and So I don't mind this, just backlining the Vel'Koz, keeping it safe.
Oh boy. Oh,
Oh
but that
yeah.
trap claw actually might secretly be really important because it stuns the Kaisa for multiple seconds. And Vi comes back now, so Kaisa can't go off again. This is huge here for Tien. I think if Kiyoon can keep this up, he might just barely survive. Otherwise, he's dead.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, it's close. It's
This
very close.
Rumble. Oh, the Rumble not attacking the Kazakhs. There we go.
Yeah.
So I think Mech is a tough matchup for Void, honestly, because the you're counting on in your Void comp doing large area of effect damage that kills multiple people, and when you've got a bunch of champions like stacked up in the Mech, sometimes that means suddenly like the Cho'Gath ult, the Vel'Koz ult are not as impactful, and so I think Mech is honestly one of the better answers against Void right now.
Oh, definitely. You got to keep that Vel'Koz safe. Kha'Zix doesn't really do much if he's just jumping onto the mech itself. So Kiyoon once more finds himself in the top 3. If he can get this win, can
Yep.
shut down Khroen and get second place. That'd be a first and a second. It looks like he's gonna do that. This
Oh yeah.
Rebel completely buckling under no ability. Oh, never mind. He's facing a ghost. Apologies there. And
Oh,
Khroen eliminates Tien. Oh my goodness.
I think
I was
Kiyoon
not
might win
expecting
this.
that.
I think Kiyoon might win this lobby. I think that his mech is extremely strong right now. He even got some good items on Kha'Zix in the Ionic Spark and stuff.
Oh, I don't know though. That's a Gangplank too
Warmont.
with GA on it. That's really tough to
Yeah.
beat. It's going to
Yeah, we'll
depend on
see.
two things here. It's going to depend
Sure.
on two things. How do they position, and this includes the disables like Shroud and the Zephyr, and then it'll come down to where does Gangplank choose to place his ultimate?
Yeah. If he only
Because
hits the mech, it's not that good.
yeah, infiltrators mess it up a lot. So you can just position the best and hope to succeed. One more final roll down here from Kiyoon. Oh, Gangplank over. That's big. Actually, that's very big. Gangplank coming in as the 8th unit for mech is very important these days, given that it gives him CC.
Yep. Finds the demolitionist without the demolitionist spatula. It's a
Okay.
fully upgraded GP on the other side though. That ult is coming down in a hurry. But yeah, I think if he can avoid the GPL with his infiltrators, which is going to be really hard because of the larger area, he might be okay. We'll see.
Okay, so the Zephyr catches the Kha'Zix. Not that big of a deal, but the Misfortune gets the ability off, and that's huge. Kiyoon is dead.
Wow, that was
No
so
chance
fast. Never
against that.
mind. Khroen takes a win in lobby number 2. So pretty great day for him so far.
Yeah, Kiyoon gets first, second. Khroen lands first after that as well. So overall, really well done on both ends. And I think it was kind of telling you what I was saying. Like the power spike of Rebels, I think most people agree that Rebels is the strongest comp in the game. The only problem is that it's hard to get there consistently. It's very item dependent and it's
Right.
expensive. So there's like a lot of problems with getting to that point. But in terms of just like the ceiling, it's certainly high, and it could even gone even higher too, right? If he chose, if you had slightly more gold or slightly better items.
For sure. So after 2 games, we're halfway done with the day. Kiyoon at number 1 in the lobby with 18 points. Khroen close behind with 16. And then Tien and Gunmay rounding out 3rd and 4th. So yeah, Deisik making a little bit of progress there. KitingIsHard falling a little bit. We could still see a lot of shakeups in the middle of the pack, but Kiyoon and Khroen right now doing pretty well so far today.
Yeah, it seems like there's a couple of concentrated packs here. It seems like you need Kiting and Lev all around that same range with Deisik able to start turning the tides, but it seems like the top three are uncontested. They're just trading top three, so to speak.
Right.
So yeah, we could be seeing a one-sided day if Kiyoon, Khroen, and Tien continue to dominate as they have been.
Yeah, I'm curious. It's going to be really interesting to kind of watch, but with 2 games down, that is going to lead us into I believe our first break of the day here at Giant Slayer series. So we will do that. Before we do though, thanks again to Juke GG for sponsoring the tournament. Hashtag or not hashtag, no, it's exclamation point in chat GSS to find the landing page from juke.gg that has all the different player POVs. If you want to go and watch Kiyoon or Khroen yourself, you can do that next game. But until then, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, more Giant Slayer Series Teamfight Tactics action here on the Giant Slayer Series. There you go. That's my outro. Enjoy it. See ya. Welcome back, everybody, to Giant Slayer series. DoA and Frodan with you as your guides through this wonderful world of team fight tactics. 2 games down today already, and we're looking forward to 2 more lobbies to see who comes out ahead in this group of players right here, right now. Kiyoon, Khroen, Tien, Gunmay on top, and then Deisik, you need KitingIsHard and Lev D trying to do what they can to pick things up a little bit. It's been a rough day so far, but we've got 3 weeks of competition, Frodan. There's plenty of time to bring it back around.
2 rounds, anything can happen really here.
True.
As we can see Gunmay potentially make some big movements up, maybe Deisik as well. But you can't really have too many inconsistent finishes. You see, like Gunmay, for example, second and seventh.
Yeah.
It's not really what you want to be playing for. But rest assured, maybe it was because Kiting also tried playing Space Jam and it didn't work out, and then Gunmay had to kind of improvise. It's tough when one of your favorite comps is contested on a galaxy that you want to play on.
Yeah, and with a comp like that, it is difficult for 2 players to go it where you do rely on a lot of 3-star 2-cost carries, and like your Jace as well. If I recall correctly, his items were a little bit rough too, and I do think that Space Jam is one of the comps that's a little bit more forgiving in terms of flexibility for items. But if you just don't hit anything, it gets a little bit rough. So 7th place for Gunmay in game number 2. We'll have to see if he can pick it up as we look at the lobby number 3. And my big expectation, my big hope, my big wish, if you will, Dan, is that we have something other than trade sector for our 3rd game. I enjoy trade
Trade
sector, or not
sector?
trade sector, star cluster. I enjoy star cluster, but it's time for something new.
Yeah,
I like
I
trade
think
sector.
Star Cluster is good. I mean, like you said, and like we saw, it introduces some decision making that's pretty meaningful.
Hey,
But
super
hey,
dense.
we're gonna go to a different galaxy. It's a super dense galaxy this time. And since the last Giant Slayer series, Super Dense Galaxy has received a change in the mechanics.
Yeah, that's right. Now you just get the force of nature on 3-1 instead of whenever you hit level 5. So it puts less pressure on the rush to 5 that existed in the initial version of Super Dense Galaxy, and more just lets you play a normal game with the knowledge that you're going to have that extra spot at 3-1. I like it a lot. I think it was a great change. Very
Yeah, I
cool.
agree. I think that it just makes a decision making in the early game. It just gives new life to it. Before, it felt like everyone had to make the same decision, which was level as fast as you can to 5, so you don't take too much damage.
Yeah. And the whole point of galaxies, I would argue, is to give you different decisions to make, not restrict your decisions. So it was a necessary change. I kind of wonder when we look ahead to the midseason patch and the Little Legends one where you started with 85 HP. Do you think, in your opinion, without having played a whole lot of games on it yet, do you think that maybe is restrictive of playstyle, that it makes you just play something more strong right away and limits the amount of comps you can go for?
Maybe. And I think that it's a better way to look at it is that the landscape of the game changes in terms of what are the inflection points. Because in TFT, you constantly evaluate like where is your power spike and what can you get away with greeting
Right.
versus pushing aggressively. And I think that's just kind of what it is. With Super Dense, it does give you a little bit more options. Ironically enough, I think this is actually a good stage for Void Brawler because it allows them to go 1 unit deeper without having to necessarily level to 8.
Mhm.
Part of the hardest part about the composition is getting to 8 safely if you're not hitting if you're not hitting, because you need to be able to get things like the Vel'Koz and the Cho'Gath online.
Yeah.
So I think that when you're able to get the level 7 composition with the extra force of nature is really good.
Well, the unsung hero of Void Brawler is Twisted Fate, right? Because he gives you Sorcerer for your Vel'Koz, and he gives you Chrono to boost your whole team with the pairing along with Blitzcrank. So level 8 is kind of like the level where you can include him a little bit more comfortably. You can give up one of the brawlers earlier, which is also what a lot of people do, but then you kind of lack frontline a little bit. So level 8 is where it really all comes together. So I agree. This is definitely a lobby that
Okay.
let's get that a little bit easier. And there's the Kha'Zix 2 for Khroen. He was a little bit hesitant bringing that in. He's like, do I really want it? But I think you do. I think it's a good comp. It's a good lobby to go for it. you want to make sure you aren't holding hands to lower results, but why not?
Yeah, play your best board. This is
Yeah.
definitely his best board for sure. I think you can go for synergies. He has cybernetics, for example, but they're all 1 stars. So try to prioritize that. And look at this Kazakhs isolate that Malphite. That's absolutely huge. I should win the fight here.
Well, the way this worked out was so bizarre actually, because the Malphite got pulled, and then that drew the other players for Gunmay away from his Malphite, which is normally not the person you want Kazakhs to attack. But like you said, the isolation then that resulted from that helped him win that round. That was a little bit wacky, but you'll take it, you know.
Right, and that's a clever positioning, opportunity that Khroen was using by backlining everything, knowing that if the Blitzcranks were on the top right side, it would get pulled. So rewarded
Mhm.
for good positioning. You love to see it.
Yeah, a lot of pro players have, as you can see, as we cycle around some of the lobbies, a lot of pro players have started to favor backline positioning with most early comps. Reason being is that when you walk forward, especially if your opponent doesn't backline, your units tend to focus a little bit better, and you can also create situations like the one we just saw, with the Blitzcrank. So yeah, and again, right now that TF is isolated. So, and the zigs is. So it's really neat, and it's something a lot of people have been doing a little bit more often. And I think if you're ever not sure about how to arrange your board in the early game, just backline it. Put the important stuff in the middle. Put the stuff you don't care about as much on the edges, and just pick a corner and just backline it.
Yep. And I think that's really effective strategy. As you can see, Khroen off to a pretty good start here. No one pre-leveling to 4. And I think it's because they understand that they're trying to play their best board. And most people understand that the real leveling strategies come starting on stage 3 for this
Mhm.
galaxy. Oh, is that Kiyoon on mech? It looks like he is.
Yeah, why not? Kiting is hard, picking up quite a few Kazakhs as well. Kazakhs. Anyway, he's got a bunch, and he's got a GA, which a lot of people will tell you is the best item for Kazakhs right now. And so there's going to be some contesting going on here.
Well, once more, you need also going for a shredder build. Seems
Hmm.
like he is just on that steady course. And if he bottom fours again, I think that would be like 3 straight games of him playing shredder, pretty much uncontested, and then also still bottom fouring, which makes me call into question whether or not that composition should be played here in this tournament.
I'm not on the Shredder hype train anymore, but I will play it if it's like a Deathblade Runin's Zaya. I think I think in the current meta, that's probably the stronger version of it, because you need something that spreads the damage around, right? So he already had the last whisper, but like you said, I don't know about it. I don't know about traditional Shredder in the current meta right now.
Yeah, I think one idea is that people would actually just get Zaya 3 and not try to prioritize other 3 stars. And what they would do would be to climb levels really quickly and then build a secondary carry that's very good, like an Irelia or a Kale. Kale can actually slide to this composition very easily. And I don't feel like Unique is prioritizing that kind of gameplay. I think he's just saying, I'm going to stick to my Hyperworld core and see if that's good enough to get me to a win streak. But right now, it's not working out very well.
Yeah, it's I think he'll do okay for a little while now, because he did hit the Infinity Edge and the Last Whisper on the Zaya too. So I think if you're gonna get a lot of wins early, this is probably the Zaya that you want. But I think when the mid game hits, when we get into like the later round 3, he's gonna start to struggle a little bit unless he really gets everything he needs right away.
Well, I mean, he's just doing a pretty decent job holding the early game. Going against Tien, who's been playing Void Brawler, looks like he's once more back on that train. So if everyone's kind of just sticking to the builds that they're playing, it makes me wonder again if you have those items for Rebels. It seems like people really aren't playing Rebels in these lobbies.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised about that. Honestly, it's we saw Khroen just have a lot of success with Rebels, and I think it's a strong comp. But maybe when it comes to super dense, I suppose you could argue that Rebels is the comp that doesn't benefit as quickly from that, because you're going for all of one synergy. And so you're still going to be in that mid game sort of like transition between 3 Rebels and 6 Rebels. So I don't know. I honestly don't play a lot of Rebel games, so I'm less familiar with this comp than other ones. But given that we're in Super Dense, maybe that's another reason to not play as much of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's several possibilities, but looks like Khroen, with that 2-star Lucian, probably going to start gravitating towards that Rebels build. He can build Giant Slayer immediately, and funnily enough, Giant Slayer, like as an item we were talking about yesterday, kind of fell off because of the prevalence of a lot of Vanguards buffs.
Yeah,
But now that people are like not really playing Vanguards. People are playing Brawlers a lot early on. You can see the Shredder. I mean, people are playing Space Pirates. Maybe if they get Jace, they start playing Vanguard. Giant Slayer could end up being situationally okay in these lobbies if you just understand that's what people are not doing. And
sure.
Giant Slayer, another good item to put on Jinx.
I mean, didn't we see somebody win lobby yesterday with Giant Slayer on one of their carries? I feel like we did. Or either it was either that or like another game I've recently watched. It all starts to blend together after a while. But it's good situationally for sure. Well, this is a board that's not going to have any problems with the Terror Bursters.
Yep, this should be totally fine, and I think overall there's no real need to level here. Yeah, but for you need specifically, what I'm curious is if he's going to roll at all. He's not in economic shape to do that.
Yeah, his gold is so low right now.
Yeah, which makes me also think there might
What?
be some. Gee,
It's a
wow,
super dense galaxy for you need, I guess.
super
Wow.
duper dense.
Ultra dense galaxy. So he's gonna get 2 extra spots at 3-1 now. That's
Well, yeah, that
crazy.
actually just allows Shen and Fiora to go straight in, which is
I guess
pretty
so.
awesome. Oh my
What?
god.
Free Shen 2 and the Fiora 2 as well? Alright, so there's your Blade Master, there's your Chrono. That's
That
an
was
enormous power spike.
disgusting. And he's still rolling anyways.
I don't know. Yeah,
Is
I
he
don't
just
know. Do
gonna
you
hit? There's no way.
No, of course there's no way. I'm a little bit surprised. You don't go less than 10, do you? Oh my gosh.
I mean, you can. He
Doing it.
has extra gold. Wow, he's just straight up going roll all the way down.
All right. I appreciate the dedication.
Unbelievable series of rolls here for you need.
Yeah. He's really strong. He got the extra spot. So it's in a galaxy where everybody gets an extra spot, he gets an extra spot. So he should still be able to win streak for a while, honestly.
Yeah, I'd consider also at least to recover some gold. There's a pretty significant difference starting from 10 gold and 0 gold.
Yeah.
And it's entirely predicated on like how good your win streak is, because the idea is that if you go down to 0 gold, you need to be win streaking or you're just delaying your leveling abilities by almost an entire stage. There's been some math done on it and just kind of shows the fundamental concepts of compound interest, but
Right.
uh, it's huge. It is huge to be at 10 gold versus 0 gold at this point of the game.
Yeah. So he
And
finds another sniper. Okay.
yeah, I'd say he should consider going to 10 gold again. He's probably going to be tempted to hold on to these because he's held them for so long. He held them for like since mid stage 2.
Mhm.
But if he's again going to stay at like below 10 gold, he has to pray he doesn't lose for this rest of the stage. Otherwise, his eco is going to be in shambles. Now, that being said, he did find a force of nature. He did find a Jin right now for that sniper. So chances are he's not going to lose for a while. But the moment that winning streak snaps and he's not above 30 gold, he is going to be in big trouble.
Yeah. The saving grace right now is that he's got time, right? The force of nature theoretically gives him time to win streak and get that economy back at a slower rate than usual. Looking at a couple other boards, it looks like we do have one Red Bulls player. We do have Kai'Sa with the demolition spat for Kiyoon as well. So, yep, mech is going to be the play there. KitingIsHard also looking like a mech player. Uh-oh. We might have some holding of hands down to 7 and 8 with these mech players.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's a player that I trust to handle being contested while playing mech. It's Kiyoon.
He's certainly going to be the best at handling it, just by virtue of having tons of experience.
Right. All right.
Yeah,
So
I
things
think.
looking pretty good so far for Unit. And the best part about it is that he's also applying pressure to the rest of the lobby while they're trying to power up.
Yeah, I think he's going to steamroll round 3, but round 4 is going to be a different story. Gunmay with the Space Jam once again. A couple good items for Darius to start things off. And you can get access to that for Celestial a little bit quicker, or in this case, 2 Celestial, but it works.
So from here, it's pretty straightforward. Just has to find a defensive item for Zaya. Not going to be that big of a deal.
Right.
Probably take that cloak so you can build a QSS that is generally considered to be the best defensive item on Zaya. So you can have her attack speed steroid go uninterrupted.
Yep. That is generally the plan. GA doesn't help her as much because if she dies and comes back, then you're not going to have that attack speed, so you're just not really doing what Zaya does. So yeah, you'd rather have her just not interrupted and die sooner than die, come back, and not do anything. All right. Well, we're over with KitingIsHard right now, who is trying to put together a mech comp. He's actually holding onto those Zayas just to deny people like you need, who is trying to look for that Zaya 3. No, selling him again. Okay. Uh, it may seem like an exercise in futility to hold on to one cost that your opponent is looking for, but you never know. Every little bit helps. So I think if you can afford it economically, you should do it. Probably requires a lot of scouting, but still.
Yes. Well, I mean, kiting has the hardest part down, which is the demolitionist spat on the Kaisa. Pretty interesting that he has the QSS there. I imagine he's going to move that eventually as well, or perhaps just stay on it. But that QSS is best on the mech for sure.
I mean, he could also be going void here. I think that's
Oh
another
yeah,
real possibility
yeah,
because,
totally.
yeah, once again, the Kaisa is an item holder for Vel'Koz, and
Right.
both Demo Spat and QSS are great on Vel'Koz. So
Yeah,
yeah, he may
totally.
actually be planning on void instead.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense doing it that way, and also
Oh, he
incidentally
is.
giving a lot of problems to Kiyoon if he's trying to find Kai'Sa, just having a little bit extra pulled out of the pool. So it
Yeah,
does seem kiting does favor that void brawler build the most, and with this four brawlers online already hitting a pretty decent power spike.
he's one away from a Kha'Zix 3.
Yeah, one away from a Malphite 3 as well.
Yep. Hmm.
It's
You don't
so
really
tempting to
want to
keep
go below
rolling.
40. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tempting, but you shouldn't. And I say that knowing full well that if I were playing this game right now, I would probably roll down because I know what to do, but my slot machine brain just like doesn't want me to stop rolling.
Yeah, you gotta have the discipline to not roll here because while it might feel good to hit, it's in the end you gotta figure out what's the big picture. The big picture is you need to
Yeah.
get your voice synergies online, and so if he rolls, unless he hits Vel'Koz specifically, um, or specifically his 3 stars, he would be just basically throwing his future down the drain.
Yeah, exactly. We've said it before where, this is a build that relies on multiple 2-star 4 cost units. So if you're not also prioritizing leveling, you're going to just be in a situation where you're going to spend every round losing and thinking, oh, if only I had a Vel'Koz 2, if only I had a Cho'Gath 2. But you don't because you spent all your gold trying to get a Kha'Zix 3, which is ultimately less impactful right now. So a couple different item options to go for. He's got the Infinity Edge for Kha'Zix. Kind of like that. I think he's waiting to see if he hits the Kha'Zix 3 first.
Well, doesn't find anything right now. I wonder how much deeper he's going to go in here. Wow.
Oh,
Oh gosh, when you've rolled 20
frustration.
gold and made no progress on anything, it's got to feel bad.
Yeah, somebody else is contesting this right now, so you're gonna struggle a little bit finding that
Eh,
Kha'Zix 3, even if you only need one left.
Lev D with brawlers, but not even necessarily, going for any kind of void synergy there because he's got that Kale, he's got that red buff, but seems like Lev's, who is trying to preserve as much HP, going to take a lot of damage here from kiting.
Yeah, that works. All right. Well, you need still number one in the lobby, still riding high on that force of nature, the double force of nature that he ended up getting. The KitingIsHard. I think it's tough, but you just have to be patient here. You have to look at your HP and say, all right, I've got 80 HP. I'm doing fine. I'm one away from the Kha'Zix 3. I'm gonna hit it eventually. I've already got the Malphite 3. Just be patient, you know?
That's right. And it's one of the things where like it's so easy to feel antsy in this position, but he's second place with 80 health. He's pretty much winning his fights. Like when he does lose, it's not that bad. If he wins pretty convincingly. I think he's in a pretty good spot. This might go pretty south though. Kiyoon looks also very sturdy, and he's got his own Kaisa Demolitionist spat.
Well, the Poppy is such a great item holder for the mech until you get the
Yes.
mech, and we're seeing that right now. Where that Poppy just is not dying. So yeah, Kiyoon looking like he's definitely gonna go mech at some point.
Right. I mean, he's just waiting essentially for whatever mech he gets online. And we're talking about how sometimes we see people don't get their mech online till the end of stage 4, and this looks like one of those games for Kiyoon.
Yeah, not ideal, but you know, it's not the end of the world, I suppose. Too.
Yeah. So once more, gonna wait one more round before I guess at this point, Kiting's on the leveling plan because as great as it is to have all the synergy, he doesn't have Void in, and without Vel'Koz, he's going to start falling off pretty quick because people are online. Khroen, you can see the Giant Slayer Red Buff Jinx at 2-star.
Right.
That's bad news for him. He's going to get completely demolished here.
Oh, that's a really strong 2-star forecast to have already. And yeah, no problems at all. Khroen just chewing through KitingIsHard's team.
Ouch.
Interesting. So a little
Two
bit of everything
rounds.
on that. Chrono.
2 rounds and 24 health gone just like that.
Yep. That is how it goes sometimes. Oh, there's a fizz. And that is, I believe, what Kiyoon was waiting for here. He's checking. Gunmay just grabs the fizz. It's got a Negatron cloak as well, which is a pretty useful item.
Yeah. It's okay. Kiting definitely wants to find that Vel'Koz, but in the meantime has a Morello Nomicon that he can put on
That's
instead of
pretty
any
big.
kind of tier item, which no tier items on Vel'Koz feels really bad. I would say the tier items are the most important thing on Vel'Koz. But I mean, all those other items are very good too, for sure.
Hmm. Oh, it all depends, right? I mean, you want your Vel'Koz to be casting, but when he does cast, you want him to gain like maximum effectiveness from it.
Right.
It's going to be a Jinx 2 for Deisik, who does have a Fizz 3, or not a Fizz 3, a Ziggs 3, but only one Seraph's there. So that Fizz is, why do I keep saying Fizz? That Ziggs is not going to be casting as fast as he normally would.
Yeah. Just because we saw a lot of Fizz action potentially on the
Maybe.
carousel. So.
Z's in both names. I don't know.
I I find myself in this position a lot when I play Rebels. I'm actually intrigued by the fact that he hasn't even committed this glove to make an Infinity Edge. I would argue that this is kind of an important time for him to continue to cement his win streak. But he probably feels like that 2-star Jinx was a good enough power spike, but now he just took another significant loss.
Yeah, that's really rough. Down to 8th.
Yeah.
Never mind. 7th as Gunmay drops below him in the lobby.
And this is concerning. This is the point that I've experienced myself, which is you hit a power spike and yet you keep losing. You can't seem to catch the knife. You have 6 rebels online. You know that the only way you can make this better is to get Gangplank out there, but you're kind of far away from it. This is looking like Daisy's going to just try to see if he can squeeze in a 5th, maybe. But right
Yeah,
now it's looking very bad, despite the fact that he opened with a 3-star Ziggs.
yeah, I think there's a big difference between 3-star Ziggs with 2 Seraphs and 3-star Ziggs with 1 Seraph.
Yeah, it's twice as good.
Yeah, one casts every other auto. The other one takes like 3 or 4 autos before he gets another cast off.
If I recall correctly, Ziggs has 40 mana, so actually, if you have 2 Seraphs, Ziggs ults every opportunity he can, which is partially why the doubles Seraphs is so important on him. So actually, it was a really bad math joke I made, but it's not even twice as good. It's like 4 times as good, in my opinion, which is a huge multiplier effect. So when you take a look at what Deisik can do, I think he has to go to 8 here and has to roll down. Yeah. So Ziggs, you can see 30 mana right now. If he
Yeah.
gets a second Seraphs, that'd be 40 mana every single time he uses ability, aka he'd constantly be throwing his bombs every single turn, hence the nickname of the composition. If you focus on Ziggs, tends to be Bomberman.
Yep. That was a great series of games.
Oh my goodness!
Ooh,
Wow,
wow. All right.
that's
Sweet.
huge.
Yeah, I got the GA, got a Thieves Gloves there.
Yep, can now make IE.
Yep.
What on earth? That's massive.
So you go GA Thieves Gloves IE here, right? I mean, that's the only combination of items I'm kind of thinking about. If I'm looking at this.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And right now, you can just use Rumble as a item holder for Gangplank, so you can put Guardian Angel and Ionic Spark. Might as well throw the Bramble Vest on there. Thieves Gloves could go on a variety of champions. Very commonly, if you choose to play Misfortune into those, if you can afford Misfortune, you can go ahead and slap that on her. Kind of
Wow.
surprised once more that he's not gonna put Infinity Edge on Jinx there. Instead, he chose to put the glove on a 2-star Yasuo.
Hmm.
Um, and I wonder if it would have made a difference this fight. And I feel like it could have.
Certainly may have. Jinx died pretty quick, but if she would have gotten, one or two more attacks in, maybe those attacks would have crit. Maybe it would have been different. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it might have been a misclick, but it looked pretty intentional.
Hmm.
That
Well,
is
Aurelion
surprising.
Soul, so we can go ahead and put that in and
Oh, nice.
put on the right unit. If that's the case, it
There
still
we
does
go.
look like a misclick. Oh, three
Yeah,
sodas.
could have been. Oh, hey,
Hey,
MS.
misfortune.
And he's got the Lulu as well, so he's got a lot of different items. He's just kind of waiting for the gangplank right now, but as far as the other units goes, he's finding what he's looking for, doing some
Yeah,
last
but
minute
it's still
swapping,
good
taking.
that he has the demolitionist because Ziggs can still be a stun bot, which is very good.
Right. Does he beat the ghost? Let's see.
It depends on Jinx get the reset. Jinx still taking a while, but looks like she finally gets off, and Misfortune's spraying people down, even just as 1-star with no upgrades. Pretty good amount of damage. So yeah, things looking pretty good for Deisik at the moment. And if he could pick up another Seraphs off the carousel and just find one single gangplank, I'd put him in a position to move into top 4 here for this game.
Yeah, he's hit the power spike. There's a couple more things, and he could still get a lot stronger from here as well, but it might be enough just to get him up in the top half of the bracket.
Hmm.
Kiyoon on a win streak right now, and I think he may have defaulted back to his mech ways. Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, who can blame him? Look at those items on Kaisa. That's really
Yeah, I
good.
mean, you don't need to prove anything either, to be quite
No.
honest. Like, Kiyoon already won game 1 with a very unusual but like really powerful KO3 composition,
Mm.
featuring a mix of just really good stuff. And then game 2, he almost won it with mech. Deisik gonna get the reset on Jinx. Jinx can finally go off. This is partially why I like Ruden's Hurricanes, because if she gets it, just gives her more kill participation to help her get the kills. And now things are really starting to snowball. You can see once Rebel hits their stride, they can start doing really powerful things. And the scary part is Deisik can still get way stronger
Yeah. Even
the
at 18
moment he can
HP,
Gangplank.
suddenly he looks pretty untouchable. We'll see what he finds from the carousel, though. If there's a gangplank there. Oh, nope, no GP. Oh, but the Seraphs.
There's another
He may
Seraphs.
actually be able to grab that.
Another Seraphs would be huge. Thesco's been taken off. Honestly, the mana printer stuff too is not bad. Oh my god, is he gonna get it?
He needs
A
a Seraph, though.
second Seraphs.
Yeah.
Dreams do come true.
Well, now the Bomberman is officially online. Got the double Seraphs. And so he's going to be putting out a ton of damage and a ton of stuns.
Yep. And so it looks like he's taking some time studying Kiyoon. He's a 3-star Kaiser, there's 3-star Rumble, but kind of lacking on a few other things. He needs to find that Fizz 2 to upgrade his mech at least to level 8, and then he'd basically be done.
I think he's kind of
Level 9
thinking
mech is
too
pretty rare.
that oh my Jinx is not going to be that useful against the mech because of the Bramble Vest. All right. So let's see what the Ziggs can do.
I mean, Ziggs is gonna do a lot. I mean, I would say that if Jinx doesn't get the reset, then Ziggs is your main carry in this composition again. Almost to the point where I'd be willing to entertain surrounding Ziggs with one more rebel than usual, and giving one less rebel to Jinx just to spread out the damage a little bit more. But I mean,
Yeah, possibly.
now, yeah, he just basically keeps tossing it. Look at that. Just has to have one auto now.
Yep, that's right. I think they changed it so that even though even if your mana is full, you still need to auto once before using your ability to keep it from getting totally insane with all the printing that was
Oh,
going on.
sure. But I mean, it
It is a perma
feels
stun.
essentially what we're talking about. Oh, no.
What? You just
Too
that was
high of an arc.
I was gonna say, what was that? There's like a pop fly bomb at the end that didn't land fast
That's
enough.
right, man. You gotta go for the line drive shots.
That
Gotta shoot
was,
the ball like Sean Marion.
I've never seen that before. I think that was like a weird visual thing that like the game knew that Ziggs was gonna die, so it just kind of made his bomb fly off there.
Yeah.
But it just looks like Ziggs totally failed hard though.
Yeah, it's true.
Now Ziggs, you got to go for the better arc, the faster arc. He was
All
trying to
right.
go for
Well,
style points, man.
the positioning battles, yeah, the style points. You can see him even like, very briefly potentially putting Ziggs in that center, but yeah, now he's going to have the Aurelion Soul absorb the Blitzcrank pull, which is actually fairly clever. So now Blitzcrank doesn't have the immediate impact.
Yep. Aurelion Soul does kind of also chill there
Wow.
because he's in the corner. But hey, he's got a long range, so why not?
Yeah, and we're kind of mentioning the Dragon's Claw and how, it doesn't seem to, you were talking about how it doesn't seem really useful. And you can see that even with Dragon's Claw, it just kind of got chewed through by the other stuff like Jinx with her resets. So
Yeah.
tough games again for Lev, Tien, and Gunmay, who are out in bottom 3.
Ooh, wow. So two of our top 4 players up to this point in the game out in 7th and 8th in lobby number 3, and Khroen on the verge of being eliminated as well. So the bottom 4 in the standings for the day are striking back now, except for Lev D.
Except for Lev, but Kiyoon's still in there, Khroen's still in there. They were the top 2 players going into game number 3. Still looking for gangplank for Deisik. The Swordbreaker, while not super imposing, could secretly be the MVP of a couple of fights. Because if you get the disable on certain auto attacks, you might be able to give yourself just enough time to get one more cast off, which makes a huge difference.
I think it's reasonable to maybe put that on the Jinx. You might want to wait for the carousel, but Jinx is going to spread that around, so I think it's pretty solid. Does not
Yeah.
find the Aurelion Soul 2.
Misfortune
Sells it
can
though.
also take the Swordbreaker, totally fine. Either one, you could convince me of.
Sure. All
Oh,
right.
huh.
Make some
Oh,
swaps.
okay, I like this. So this is something that you can do as a Rebel player. You can actually split 3 and 3. And this is something that I don't see a lot of Rebel players doing because they try to maximize the damage and shield. But it hedges against people who are specifically trying to target one side, especially with Shroud. And he got the Jinx on the side that had the Shroud anyway. So Jinx has the maximum amount of chances, but she's not resetting. Not a single
Yeah.
time, and he is dead.
Oh no, he didn't get the damage done, and it's another mech win for Kiyoon, and Kiyoon secures himself a top 3 at least. Unid still on top of the lobby after a whole game of getting that extra force of nature, and he apparently has really put it to good use since then. On
Yeah, it
board with
turns
Kiyoon
out
though.
turns out when you have 2 Force of Natures at 3-1, it's pretty good. And, Uni was able to leverage that into getting levels. Now he has level 9 with 11 units. This is just a lot to chew through. Like, it doesn't matter the fact if they're powerful or not. There's just a lot of stats on board here.
That's the second game in a row he's put a Dragon's Claw on Xayah. That's interesting. Because the first time I was like, oh, maybe he just didn't have the items, but 2 games in a row? That is interesting. I would assume he just didn't have the items again, but I'm curious now. Meanwhile, Unid versus Kiyoon.
And well, right now it's kind of hard to tell who's going to win this fight. It's pretty close. Still is close even to this moment here.
Looks
Oh,
good
the
for
Lux
Mac.
getting the stun on the Kate though gives it a little bit extra time.
I mean, that they had to chase around the back line so much there, but now this Caitlyn 3 is actually going to finish it. It looked good for Mech, but they got distracted by the Rakan.
Yeah, yeah. Kiting's out too, so this means that it's Kiyoon versus you need level 8 mech. That's huge.
Wow. No kidding. Still, it's going to be a rough matchup. And I'm curious. I'm really going to be curious to see how he positions his Mech. Yeah, just opting to the one side there. Just trying to isolate perhaps the Ashe and then kind of go from there.
It's tough because
Uh-huh.
there's multiple units that he wants to kill. He really wants to obviously prioritize hitting the Xayah, but there's the Caitlyn's also a threat, as we have seen, and now Caitlyn, if she can get stunned, pretty big win here for Kiyoon. This is much better positioning because now some of those units are stuck on the mech.
It took
But
a
now Zai's
long
at full
time to kill.
power.
That's the thing. It took a long time to kill the Caitlyn because the heal came through. And so I think because of that, it gave Zaya plenty of time with that last whisper to tear apart the mech. And that'll
And
do it.
that's going to do it there.
Yeah.
Game number 3 goes to You Need with the Shredder composition. So after we were kind of talking about how it might be falling off in power, I mean, no one doubts whether or not Shredder is still a good composition. It's whether or not you can go for it in other areas.
Mhm.
And You Need with 2 6 places finally puts on first on the board.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is credit to the second force of nature. You know, he was able to hit a pretty huge power spike really early on in that game and just did a good job of managing his win streak and keeping the momentum going to the point where late game he had like the extra karma and stuff. So remember, he had access to stuff you don't normally have in Shredder. Like you don't normally see a karma on the Zaya, which improves the damage a lot too. So I think obviously good job managing the win streak, but a lot of that you have to give the credit to the extra force of nature, I think.
Yep.
Azu.
So, you look at these standings, and the one thing stands out above the rest is that Kiyoon is averaging second place or better.
Yes.
That is
Uh,
wild.
one win with a Kale 3 comp and then 2 second places with mech. So still
Yeah.
finding it to be a pretty solid composition to go for. I just can't wait to see what happens when we get a Kiyoon and Khroen in the same lobby.
I mean, you might see what we're talking about, which is, Kiyoon gets contested, maybe he pivots, maybe he doesn't, but he's perfectly fine pivoting versus I think some other mech players may struggle a little bit more than what Kiyoon would because Kiyoon does have experience on mech
Yeah.
in several different ways.
Like people need to realize how significant this is that Kiyoon not only played a game that wasn't mech, but won a game that wasn't mech. Like the last time Kiyoon played a game that wasn't mech was like months ago, like early set 3. Because Giant Slayer Series 1, I don't think he did that. Starside Invitational, he played all mech. I can't think of a time where I haven't seen him play mech in a tournament. So yeah, we've seen one game now. Significant.
Yes, one game where Kiyoon didn't go mech, but he played it beautifully, and that was the game he won. Quite
One, yeah.
frankly. So perhaps maybe he's limiting himself because right now his average placing is 1.67, and
It's
if
not
he
bad.
wins again with a non-mech, I mean, it'd be a 1.5. It's super impressive he's able to do that because that's as dominant as you can get in TFT, I think, with a lobby like this.
And a Nicoverse for our final lobby here of the day. On board with You Need, the winner of lobby number 3. And the approach to Nicoverse has changed a lot throughout the history of set 3, where the Nicoverse has been available. Some people have been using it with hyper rolling to get their 3 stars. A lot of people using it for 5 costs at the end, but a lot of people using it as well for some of those crucial 4 cost minions, the Aurelia, the Kales, things like that. So I think there's a very broad approach to Nicoverse right now, and it's going to be interesting to see what the players decide.
Yeah, Nicoverse is another universe that or galaxy rather that I think a lot of people came around on. At first, they were just like, "Oh, it's pretty obvious, just 2-star whatever carry you get first, and just
They
like
do get a 5
whoever gets
cost.
Kale, congrats, you win.
Yeah,
If it's you land the Irelia, congrats, top 3 Zareth, right? Like find it, things like that. But
sure.
yeah, that's starting to change a lot now that the power spikes for certain compositions are very different instead of kind of the steady level at 3-2 and level at 4-3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am curious, and I think a lot of players have kind of come around on it and think that if anything, Nicoverse might be one of the best galaxies for skill expression.
I think so. I like too that in set 3 right now the 5 costs aren't quite as auto include as they were in set 2. Like in set 2 you'd be like, "Oh, I got a Zed with items or I got a Singe. Like it doesn't matter what my comp is. This is really really good." But now, there are some 5 costs that don't work in quite as easily you know in counter to what the rest of your comp is doing. So I think that does kind of enforce use of the Nico in other ways and just kind of slamming it on a 5 cost.
Right. And, sometimes you've even seen people do really, really wild things. Like I've seen like Ine, I think it was Ine, 2-star at Darius on stage 2.
Yeah.
and then just like use that to win streak. And like I think he landed top 2 that game because of that.
Mhm.
And it was such an interesting use of it that I wasn't really like thinking about whatsoever. And that's part of what makes it so interesting is that there's definitely strategies that we have still yet to discover, but maybe not necessarily in this kind of environment. I don't know if Giant Slayer Series Season 2, the highest stakes TFT tournament in the West, has
Maybe.
I don't think that's the time for you to mess around with stuff. I think it's when you should stick to your guns here.
There's a lot of choices to be made. I think it depends on items and things. Like I actually played a Nico first game yesterday where I used them both on a Kha'Zix because, and it wasn't even a hit Kha'Zix 3. I just happened to hit like perfect items on a Kha'Zix 1, and I'm like, if I make this a Kha'Zix 2 right now, I can win streak with this for a long time. And so I just did that. Ended up, I think second or third that game. Either way, it was a good result.
Yeah,
And
and
normally we
I
would
think
never do that.
yeah, exactly, and that's part of what makes some of these situations. Look at Tien, who's hard inting to get that 10 gold on 2-1. Um,
Wow, poor Malphite.
yeah, tall order. I don't think he's able to kill a single unit for a long time. But the items for Tien are actually really good. Look at what he has. He can make immediately a red buff Giant Slayer, but obviously, as we've seen, like red buff Giant Slayer isn't as important. And Khroen, who got a 2-star Jinx with those items, aren't really as good. But he
True.
can make Guardian Angel and kind of keep his items flexible to even play Kale. So we'll
GA
see what
ZZ
Tien
Rot.
ends up doing.
That's what I see.
GA Zizirot. I mean, he
Yeah.
also could just play Void Brawler once more, like play GA, save that for Rapid Fire Cannon, and make Morellos.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true too. I'm still on like the ZZ Rot portal hype train. I think that's one of the strongest early game items you can slam. And if you're not going like a, you know, composition where you need the bow, I think it's really worth it to drop it on a tank early. Any 2-star really, as long as it's not going to dilate.
Yep, it's totally fair.
All right.
Unit has this early Kha'Zix with an Infinity Edge, and he has a Morel Nomicon, and I'm curious if he's just gonna go for the Void Brawler. He's been playing the Shredder composition for 3 games in a row now.
Hmm. Worked for him last game, or no, it didn't work for the Uni last game. Lev D was struggling a little bit, but yeah, I think Uni might just go for Void. Why not?
Well, I mean, he won the previous game with Shredder,
Right.
so it's maybe something that's on his mind of like, I know this composition really well. He's still holding on to things like Zaya and that one of Fiora, but it's kind of looking like it should be a Void Brawler game, not gonna lie. This is a very strong opening start, and he can make gold from this point on if he commits to it.
I think there's a number of factors that push you towards that direction. Um, I think I like the double Vanguard a little bit better here as well. Morello's on Poppy is interesting, but Poppy can just kind of hold it for now and get the benefit from the belt, I guess.
Yeah, the Vanguard's better because you have a 2-star Poppy. So
Yeah.
2-star Poppy versus 1-star Blitz and Malphite. I think the math is pretty clear on that.
Some people might be wondering too. Well, why wouldn't you put the Morellonomicon on a Twisted Fate? Like Twisted Fate uses Morellonomicon really well, and the answer is that if you're going for this Void comp, you don't want to have to remake the Twisted Fate, and you know you're going to need to move that Morellonomicon over the Vel'Koz later, where it can do a lot more good. So that being the case, you have to put it on a unit that you're willing to sell later, and the TF is in reserve. You don't want to get rid of that at any time.
Yeah, definitely don't put stuff onto units you end up intending on keeping for a while and you need
Right.
to sell it for something else. I'm sure all of us have done it at one point where we are guilty of sabotaging our own success.
Oh yeah, that's the story of TFT. Yet another parallel with StarCraft, where it's very easy to sabotage your own game if you make the wrong move.
So he sees that a tier was taken, so he likely going to start to build stuff for the Vel'Koz. I think he takes the cloak here so that he can optimize it. I think another belt is unnecessary given that he already has Morello. Looks
Yeah,
like we're going to switch POVs to Khroen, who was looking good the first 2 games and then just narrowly missed out on top 4 as he died half a second before Deisik did.
right.
So
Thinking the Rebels again. It looks like does not have.
potentially, I mean, he has 2 Zigs right now, so
Yeah.
it's likely that he ends up going for rebels based off this opening, but it could also just easily pivot out of it.
Yep,
Um,
you're not committed here.
yeah.
Hmm. Either way, it's you just don't have a ton of damage with this setup right now with the 1-star Yasuo and the 1-star Ziggs.
It's still reasonable amounts of damage. It's like the Yasuo with two swords does actually deal a decent amount of damage. So if he does lose, he'll probably end up losing just barely, but looks like he's gonna take the win to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a pretty good one. GA helping out a lot there.
Yeah. So yeah, don't underestimate the power of just like slamming items. This is kind of what people talk about sometimes. Instead of keeping on your
Sure.
bench, just having that just raw AD on Yasuo kind of makes him like a 2-star power, even if he doesn't have the health.
I was never a big Slash Bros player, so I'm always underestimating set 3 Yasuo.
He's reasonable. Ever since this change in mechanics where he doesn't target the unit with the highest amount of items, a little bit sad about that. I know that obviously it was
Eh,
problematic for a few different reasons, but I just thought it was cool.
yeah, I like that a lot of the targeting in this game is based on a specific,
Oh,
but that one was
jeez.
a bit too much. That's a Kale 2 already, so finds
Yeah.
early Kale, and Nico's it. Kiyoon, well, dedicating to that. I mean, it's not gonna work out this time, but Kale with the Rage Blade gonna be, pretty strong in a lot of other scenarios.
I mean, the rest of the composition without KO2 still managed to hold out on its own, but yeah, it looks like this Leona 2 has a tall order in front of her. She does get her ability off one last time. If it goes to overtime, Leona might be able to take this.
Oh, oh,
Oh,
oh, so
wait,
close!
but the ability's running out.
GA.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
man.
Imagine hitting KO 2-star before Krugs and yet still losing. Wow.
Yep,
Also
that's,
goes to show you the clutchness of Blitzcrank.
I would say so. The crowd control is insane. I mean, he
Yeah.
CCs someone for so long. Blitzcrank 2 now even.
Yeah, it's just really tanky. So now that actually lets him to put Blitzcrank in the front of his composition. But yeah, overall, that has to feel good if you're Khroen, because now you get that extra gold. And with some units to sell on his bench, he's going to be able to hit a nice 50. Although he's probably going to level as well. So
Mhm.
either way, looking pretty solid so far.
Well, I wonder if he is gonna, hyper roll for the Ziggs here. Goes to 40. He is not leveled yet. Let's
Um,
see what he wants to dedicate. Does he even wanna do it at all?
It's
No, maybe not.
pretty ill-advised to roll when you have only 3 of them, just because you are
Yeah.
gonna spend a lot of your gold catching up to the point where you want to be. Also, it looks kind of uncontested. Oh, never mind. Kiting
Oh.
has a lot of tiers. He's got 3 tiers.
Ziggs 2 on that bench as well. So, multiple people
Meanwhile,
with Ziggs 2 right now.
another problem is that Uh, there's no second tier for Khroen, and
Yeah.
Kiting has 3 tiers. So even if he rolled for it, he might just get a second tier, and that's it.
Yep, very true. The nice thing for Crone right now is he at least has the demolitionist buff, but his Ziggs is casting so slowly that he's not getting that much of a benefit from it. Still seems like he's going to win this round.
Yeah, Demolitionist buff is still very powerful, and it's a Ziggs too. More importantly, he's got a Blitzcrank that survived the entire fight while pulling carries towards him. So
Yeah.
tankiness matters a lot. Another Ziggs. Okay, so if he just somehow finds more Ziggs,
Hmm.
maybe like he's not leveling here to 6.
This is really interesting. All right. Playing it
If he
really he's playing it so cautiously. Like he's really
Right.
leaving himself the ability to pivot here and you can tell he's thinking through, do I want to fully commit to Rebels right now? Because you're mostly committed, but there's still that little chance to pivot here.
Right. He has a bow, for example, that could
Yeah.
still go to a variety of different ways. He could still play. KO composition is less likely because Kiyoon has found one of 3 of the kills rather.
Mhm.
But you still when you have Nicoverse, it's still important to stay flexible, and this is where it really tests you. And you can see that restraint has paid off because it looks like even if he does lose, it wouldn't be that bad of a loss.
Well, that's the thing is that he's on a win streak right now. He's still winning. So even though his comp feels weaker than it's behaving and it feels a little bit awkward, like it's still working. And I think that's one of the things in TFT that's the hardest to accept sometimes is that you're going for a specific comp and you feel very underpowered because you don't have what you think you should have at that point. But if you're still winning with it, don't change it. Just allow that to happen and like build up for the moment where you do need to make a switch, you know? I think accepting a win streak with a comp that you're not happy about is one of the toughest things to do in TFT.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of other players would agree with you as well. You need has that Kha'Zix at 3-star. He hit that a couple of stages ago, or rather a couple of rounds ago.
Yeah.
But the demolition is still kind of giving him a little bit extra fight if he can kill one or two more of these units. But it does look like Unit is online here with that 2-star Kaisa as well. So he's definitely looking like to be one of those early lobby leaders.
Yeah. And I think if you're Khroen, you're not worried too much about that round. You're gonna lose
Wow,
those. That was just a stronger board. It's not a
that's a
big deal.
jinx. That's a jinx.
Is it a jinx?
And that's
A
a
jinx.
Jin with a bow as well. Those are two really powerful units to build around. No one's gonna take this jinx.
A jinx with a chain vest, not something you see survive this much in the carousel, but
Wow, wow.
he may not grab it anyway. Yeah, I think okay. I was gonna be very surprised if he didn't grab this.
Yeah, he can turn that immediately into a Guardian Angel Jinx, or even just keep that vest open and you could pop it off later. There's some tricks that you can do with that to make sure that it's off.
Could
But the
also
problem is that he already has GA, so that would
yeah.
probably turn to red buff.
I mean, you could also spike a little bit as well just by two-starring it. We'll see what he decides to do. I'll watch the sidebar there as we move on to Tien's view. We'll see what
Jeez.
he's playing in a moment.
Looks like
Watching Kiyoon
Tien
right
might
now.
be AFK for a second here, just looking at other factors here. He's got that Void Brawler, and he's gonna go for a head and level. Looks like he's off the Kha'Zix 3 plan, seeing you need hit.
Yep. Lev D making a Jin 2 on the side there. Kiyoon jumping up to level 7. And Tien. Now, Ari can also be a pretty solid Vel'Koz item holder. She gives you Sorcerer with the comp, and she does do a good amount of damage. She's a great Morello's holder. Not going to be enough to win this round. And at this point in the game, you're starting to kind of gear up towards bringing that Void part of the comp online, where like by 4-1, you really want to have the Cho'Gath and the Vel'Koz.
All
So
right,
let's see.
so the rush to 8 here, as what's the important thing, like you said, is getting that Vel'Koz. So not really much going for Tien, and this is the worst beating that he'll take all game, but he's gonna have to hit that power level. Is he reading his chat and talking to chat right now? I mean, that these people are streaming. You could watch alongside their POV as they are available on Juked.
Yep. He's checking the like a comp guide. Or he's like, "What goes in Brawler Void again?" He's like, "I think he knows, but always good to check."
Well, what's interesting about Tien is his positioning seems to be more traditional Vel'Koz builds, where he likes to place it on the second row and move his brawlers up. Most people have kind of moved towards a backline strategy, and it seems like he's
Yeah.
still adopting that. But he is so far behind that I would say that unless he hits next turn, he might be looking at a bottom 2 this game.
Which he can't really afford because he took bottom 4 last game as well, and 2 of those in a row is going to be a pretty big hit to his standings for this first day here in Giant Slayer Series Season 2. I think one of the big things that this comp is missing right now is Blitzcrank. I think the fact that he hasn't found a Blitzcrank yet, so he's missing out on Chrono, he's missing out on the crowd control with that, is another massive problem for him. Um, hasn't hit the Kaisa as well, so this is about as low roll a void comp I think as you can see right now.
Wow, rolling 10 gold just to see if you can get it.
Maybe you go with the GP here actually. He doesn't have demolitionist
Uh,
though. I mean, just in terms of finding any way possible to make this comp stronger than it is at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, found really good items for the Vel'Koz, so
It's one of those rare scenarios where you're finding items, but you're not finding the champions.
I mean, if you find if he finds the Vel'Koz, he's gonna immediately two-star it, but this is looking pretty dicey so far. He levels to 8 just temporarily get the natural roll, but he's not gonna beat this with just a bunch of 1-stars. Like, you got strength in numbers, but when they're all 1-stars, it's not that good.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to beat anybody until he gets Void Online right now, or hopefully in the future here. Gotta roll down. Oh, feels
Okay,
so bad. There's
Blitz.
finally the Blitz. Yeah, that's nice. That's a big improvement for him. So he does
Right.
manage to put in 4 brawler, but no, this is a really rough situation for TN right now.
Right. I think to preserve HP, I'd even consider throwing down this locket. And it looks like that's what he's going for.
Yep, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Perhaps a decision that he could have made the previous battle as well, but I don't know if it would have made that big of a difference. Right now, he's still hurting. He's still like, I think he has only two stars on his entire side. Everything else is 1-stars. That's
Right.
just way too few. It's also so sad to see when you look at the lobby snapshot. If you end up getting kicked out of the lobby and you see like everyone else has like a bunch of 2-stars and your entire army is just 1-star.
This comp kind of looks a little bit, and he's going to win this round, which is big. He's actually going to beat Khroen.
Yeah.
This comp looks kind of forced. It looks like he just made the decision. I'm going to play Void, and when you see this many 1-stars, there's a Fizz too and another Kha'Zix, but when you see this many 1-stars on a board, you kind of think to yourself, it's like, all right, I know you found other stuff, but you didn't buy it. Yeah, it's a situation where like maybe some pivot opportunities were missed along the way. That could have helped a little bit. He's gonna finally 2-star the Cho. Yeah, rough spot to be in.
Yeah. I mean, you can see him making actions, giving up on his fist tube, making one of the putting one of his Nico's onto a Cho'Gath so that he can get 2-star. That's the right call. He hit level 8 before others, so he has a little bit of breathing room. This is very similar to what Polt likes to do. Polt
Right.
likes to level first, ask questions later, and just
Thanks
try
for
to
that level.
stabilize. And it's important
Yeah,
because if he just kept playing at the pace of everyone else, he's going to die.
pretty much. So let's take a look at the items here. A couple different ones. He's gonna go ahead and grab the bow. Okay. He's already got all the Vel'Koz items that he needs. So now it's all about maybe Kha'Zix items and then tanking items.
Yeah, he already has a bow, so he can make a rapid fire cannon right now. So
Sure.
that seems the most logical. Plus, it's on an echo, so he gets the most gold back to roll down. Looks like Deisik and Kiyoon still kind of win streaking here, but yeah, not looking good for Tien. And I imagine that he is once more still on that spot where he has to roll down for Kha'Zix or
Yep.
for Vel'Koz.
He's this is like the Top Gun build, which is where you're flying into the danger zone. Oh, he
Oh
finds the Valkyrie.
wow,
All right.
that is
So
massive.
yes, he may yet survive another round or two because he does have good items. I do find the positioning really interesting that he's deciding to go with more of a traditional Void Brawler positioning. Um, but we'll see what happens.
If he finds a Kha'Zix, I think he should entertain the idea of using the Nikos on Kha'Zix as well to get to 3-stars. Any kind of power spike you can get is significant here.
Either one, Vel'Koz or Kha'Zix, whichever one he finds first, that's going to be the Nico target, I think.
All right, Deisik with that Jinx too, but gets protected by the Trap Claw. And finally, with that reset, can start putting in the damage. This is bad for Tien. Uh-oh.
Very bad. Yeah. It's not going to kill him, but it's going to take him down to 13 HP. And that's pretty much going to be your last
Oh
life.
my
There we go.
gosh. I guess one more roll to see what happens. You're just going to go ahead and go for it. All right.
Yeah. I don't think you have the luxury of waiting at this point.
Yeah, but is it too late is more of the question here because while you've gotten this power spike, everybody else is also getting powerful as well because this is the end of stage 4.
Right.
So kind of dicey.
Hmm. All right. Moves the Vel'Koz a little bit. And
Uh-oh.
that Vel'Koz. All right. Well, there's no Blitzcrank. Oh, there is a Blitzcrank. But I think it's
Well, I
going to
mean,
grab the TF. Yeah. Okay.
he has the
Oh, it's a
QSS,
QSF
so it'd
anyway.
been fine. It's just more like he doesn't have anything to protect him against an infiltrator that jumped in the back.
or an infiltrator thrown to the backlines, he's going to win the round against Unit at least.
And
Who
you
has
need
3
super greedy.
Nikos?
What the heck? He has 3 Nikos still on his bench by stage 5.
Wow. All right.
Super greed.
So I guess one important note to think about when we have multiple players playing Void and there are limited numbers of the champions in the pool in the Nicoverse is that in TFT right now on the live server, if you use a Nico's help on a champion where there are no more of that champion available, the Nico's help just bounces right off. Now in the mid set patch, the Nico will just give you another one anyway because Nico is magical and kind. But currently in the game, multiple people going Void in Nicoverse may actually end up kind of negating the help of the Nico completely.
That is true. Sometimes that does end up becoming the case here, but it looks like Tien is going to be pretty much set with one thing, which is getting his the rest of his units to 2 stars here.
Yep. Moving over to Deisik, who is going for the Rebel Jinx build.
This is fun.
Oh
Using the
yeah.
Blitzcrank as a impromptu gangplank substitute while he watches his opponent hit the 2-star gangplank.
Oh, that's the worst feeling.
Oh, it
Oh
was
no, and then he
Khroen as
plays
well.
him.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Wow, this is gonna
it's
be
a
absolute
nightmare.
destruction. And Khroen has, again, some of the best itemization that you could possibly get on Jinx.
Oh,
Oh
he's
no,
gonna
the dodge!
win
The
though. All right.
dodge! How did that what?
Nice. All right, never mind. I
Jinx?
guess Blitzcrank is the way to go.
Oh my god.
What did I
I mean,
just see?
it wasn't the Blitzcrank, it was the dodge that's naturally on the IE and the trap claw. She just kept
Oh,
dodging
no.
every one of Jinx's rockets.
That's so funny. All right. Well, we take those if you're Dasic and
Yes, you absolutely do if you're Deisik. That's your main
finds
competition.
finds the Aurelion Soul too. If he gets like a Morellonomicon or something like that off a carousel or a demo spat, he's gonna be in a great shape. What can this Jinx do?
Yeah, putting out a lot of damage gets to reset, so Gunmay looks like he is unlikely to be able to survive long here, but his KO composition has bought him a lot of HP, so it looks like it's going to be a tight finish for like the top 4 spots. It
Yeah.
seems Dasic is one of the locks for a top 2, but he is yet to hit a gangplank, which he does, and now I think that might just cement his position to be in the top 2. But of
I
course, a
mean,
lot
he's
more
certainly
TFT is still to be played.
looking really good, and yeah, while this may be the last game of today, obviously this is only the first week of Giant Slayer Series Season 2, so a lot of room for the standings to move around, obviously.
Ah. Pretty unusual, like replace the 2 of the rebels to go ahead and play a couple of expensive units in Thresh and Cho'Gath just to get some more frontline. I like this decision because it, in the end, does the same thing, which is give Jinx time. And it's not like he's going for the full rebels because he has like Ziggs or an Aurelion Soul. He only has one rebel that's worth powering up, and that's Jinx. This is a very good uh, adaptation of a Rebels build that we see coming out of Deisik. I
Yeah.
appreciate it a lot.
On board to the 5/4 carousel, there's a Guardian Angel in there. There's a lot of good items on this one. Tien grabs the Infinity Edge, and there's a Deathblade is available as well. Zeke's is probably the second best thing on that right now. We'll see what Kiyoon and Deisik go for after Khroen and Gunmay. They both rush for the Zeke's, but Khroen gets it.
Yeah, Deisik doesn't have that GP with the Guardian Angel, so obviously he would love to get it, but seems like instead he's just going to go ahead and take whatever the next best item is in his mind. He already has blasters, so he can go ahead and slap this onto Ezreal until he finds Misfortune.
Yeah, why not? Oh,
Uh,
there's Misfortune.
Apparently that's right now.
I guess so. Yeah. All right. So the Giant Slayer going to be put to use on the blaster, of course.
Ooh, Kale's a big pickup. Faster impact is huge. It's the best upgrade for Gangplank.
You didn't
Wow, he's
buy
just gonna
it.
go ahead and forego it. Interesting. Interesting.
What? Why would you not get that? I mean, it's you
I
have a
think
good.
because he's gonna replace that Gangplank and give that QSS to Misfortune and then go for Kale as his
Uh,
late game.
no, he sold
I
it.
guess not.
I'm so confused. Maybe you just missed it because yeah, faster impact is the best upgrade on GP.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that's a pretty significant loss here, but
Yeah, it is.
yeah, and you know, Deisik doesn't have a reliable gangplank, so maybe he doesn't even feel
No.
confident that he'll be able to get his ability off. Either way, I always think that when you play gangplank, every single upgrade is really important for him. But you know, I'll go ahead and trust him and use this as a learning opportunity. Perhaps he knows something about the gameplay dynamic that I don't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you don't have a guardian angel on the gangplank, it's like a coin flip whether or not he'll get the ult off. So, I mean, I can see in that scenario not buying the upgrade, but it's such a good upgrade.
Yeah, and he does have the demolitionist buff. You know, an argument that you can
Yeah,
make is if he doesn't have like zigs and he doesn't really have like the stun, but he does. Either way, this is a very tight lobby for bottom four, actually bottom five. All of them are within striking distance here. So a
right.
potentially big moment here in this series.
Well,
And the
GP ult
Jinx
comes.
still not with getting no resets. The front line is so tanky, stopping Jinx from being able to go off. And this is another big loss for Daysik.
Kale absolutely wrecked him. Kiyoon going back to his game one strategy today, going with the Kale build. Oh, hey, would you like a free Wukong too? Don't even need all
Yes.
three.
Oh my goodness, the Seraphs. I mean, that's another thing that you had to debate here. Seraphs could go on Misfortune. It's
I think
definitely
so.
the she's definitely the best user of it. There's people who put it on Irelian Soul still. I know that the changes to Aurelion Soul, people think that there's zero impact. There's still some impact, but there's no like Morel Nomicon or anything to make it better. So and of course, I've also still in time situations like put Seraphs on Gangplank, but that's because I already had Guardian Angel, and
Sure.
it made me just want to cast them a little quicker.
Ooh, Nico's. That's actually really big. That could
Okay.
help him two-star one of his other 5 cost.
Right.
If he can hit it, looking around, Wukong 3 is not a bad unit if you can find it. Aurelion Soul.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten Wukong 3 a few times. Actually, believe it or not, I
Oh,
have never won a game with Wukong 3. Oh, another Gangplank.
huh. So now the choice needs to be made. Do you two-star the Gangplank or two-star the MF?
Whatever
You
you roll down and find first here. Looks like he didn't find it, so it has to be Gangplank, and he's going to go ahead and itemize it because that is the most important aspect here. That stun.
Yeah, could have two-starred the MF, but decided to go with the Gangplank anyway. Put the Seraphs on it, and you will get that ult faster that way.
Yes, very big, and now you can see that big difference.
All right.
GP2 plus, you know, Sarah's to give him that ability to get his cast off.
Yeah,
So now top three has been set.
I think it's about beefing up your front line, right? Again, giving Jinx and MF the most time you can. So the GP, I
Mhm.
suppose, in his mind is a bit higher priority there. But yeah, our top three,
Mm.
Deisik, Kiyoon, and Khroen.
This is tough. You know, you definitely want to like optimize your bench for for Thresh like Blitzcrank pulls, but you also kind of need to like keep some of these weaker like pulling a 1-star MF. Like not there's worse things, but it's not great,
Yeah, it's a coin flip whether or not she actually benefits you with an ultimate or something.
right?
Going up against Khroen now, who is still working.
Uh,
Oh, GPLs come in.
oh no, Jinx. Oh, she finally gets the reset. That's big. Oh, it's too late. It's too late.
Yeah, the Jinx on the
A
other side.
couple of Yeah, a couple of really unfortunate things happened there for Daysik. His Thresh pulled the worst unit on his bench. If he pulled a Shen, it would have been pretty solid. Actually, I think that's actually pretty galactic brain to go for
Oh,
Shen on your
dude,
bench.
I love Shens on Thresh boards. There's a faster
Ooh,
impact. I know it's 8 gold, but
it's
you
really
can't.
expensive right now, and
So
he has
hard
to
to
sell a
sell.
lot to get to that.
Yeah. Oh man, but you've got 30. Yeah, you've got 30 HP. Okay. Would you
Yeah.
lock here? That's the question.
I think hitting Misfortune 2 is still a really impactful thing, and it's clear that
Yeah,
Daysik and I guess a lot of other players don't necessarily prioritize faster impact. It's just a really nice thing to have if you can afford it. Just
I
because
think
it
that
comes down immediately, right? Which means that
right.
things get stunned super quick. But look at that. He's still able to get a big AoE stun onto Kiyoon, and now it's the KO versus the Jinx.
I think the notable thing there is that the stun came
Oh.
through, but then the Soraka ulted immediately afterwards and negated all the damage.
Oh,
So
Khroen's out to a ghost.
yep.
And
Out
now
in third.
Kiyoon versus Deisik. Kiyoon in good position to end his day on the first place after getting first and second twice.
Oh, he grabs the MF. He knows.
Yeah,
He
he
knows
knows. He
Daysik
knows.
was just one away from that MF2. And yeah, an Aurelion Soul that Shojin goes unpicked. Interesting. A Soul
I
2
mean,
already available. Oh, and he finds the
he
MF2 anyway.
he also has misfortune. I was about to say it's a really important aspect of the KO composition to get that Valkyrie bonus. Kind of sad that all the Valkyries are leaving in the mid-set expansion. They're so cool, but I mean, there's not
Hmm.
really much here for Daisy to do except hit misfortune 2, which he does anyways.
All right, so
That's
they both get it.
huge. That is
Kale,
huge.
Kale versus Jinx is what this next one comes down to, and how much you can protect your carry. Hmm. And actually, Soraka is a really important thing here too for both sides. When that Soraka ult goes off, let's check it out. Almost
Oh,
mirrored
the
up.
Zephyr.
Big Zephyr
Zephyr
on
was
the
so
MF.
big. Misfortune is just outside the range, but it gets pulled by the Blitzcrank.
Yep. Waiting for that Lulu ultimate. It did go off on the Kiyoon side. Kale
Oh
trying to fight for
my
life for the team.
gosh.
Oh, Daisik. All
Fighting
right.
back.
We got a 1v1 on our hands now. A real 1v1.
Yeah, again, a lot to unpack from what just happened, but the most important thing was Daisik isolated his bench for a single Blitzcrank pull, knowing that he's going to likely hit Misfortune as the target. And then
Right.
Kiyoon was fortunate enough where the Gangplank ability didn't actually target Misfortune because she was just on the outskirt, but the Blitzcrank was pulled in just in time to do that. And so while Kiyoon felt a false sense of security because he had the Zephyr onto the Misfortune, it was negated by the fact that he wasn't able to spray as well. This is tough. How does
Yeah.
he react now?
It's a great 1v1. Well, let's see what happens. MF moved over to the middle now, so trying to avoid that Blitzcrank pull. There's still the Lulu ult coming in on the Kiyoon side of things.
Oh no, the Gangplank stun
Oh,
is huge, and that's very big, but the Misfortune goes off.
the Lulu ult for Daisik.
Yeah, this is too much to come back from, is it? Oh,
Yeah. Wow, Deisik, 2 in a row, and both players on their last life right now. It's
okay,
gonna come
Blade
down to this.
Masters. Blade Masters.
Uh,
So what does that let you do here? You don't really want to cut Shen. You don't want to cut, obviously, Kale.
hmm.
Your third Blade Master is a Lulu. I guess you put it on Misfortune. Kind of unlucky here for Key. Oh my god.
Oh,
Get out of here. A Guardian Angel for the Rebel
jeez.
player? Oh,
All right. Well,
okay.
well, Rebels. You know that you said you wanted to see more Rebels today, so here you
I mean,
go.
I believe Rebels is the strongest comp in the game. It's just hard to get there. That's the
Yeah,
big problem. There's a lot of skill navigating through it.
for sure. Another MF, not necessary. Loading up on
Okay.
good things
Oh,
to pull, basically.
Blitzcrank. Yeah, he needs to find another Lulu as well. He's at 2 Lulus.
Yep.
Rolling, rolling. Finding Soraka, potential big heal. Another Gangplank. That's not going to do anything. That's look like he's good here. Most important thing is probably figure out where he wants to place his Zephyr. At the last second, he's probably going to swap it. Looks like he's targeting Jinx.
Yep. Tries for it.
Oh, and Daisik, too clever, already swapped at the last second, anticipating he might go for that as an option.
That's Ziggs instead. So in front, Wukong gets a pretty good ult off in the middle, but then he gets hit by the Lulu ult.
Okay,
Soraka
okay.
heal.
Wait,
Oh, the Lulu
the
ult.
Thresh pulled in the Blitzcrank, which pulled the Misfortune and stopped her from ulting, and then he was able to pull the Lulu. This was a great move by Kiyoon. Does that
Yep,
win him the game? It
it
does.
does. Wow, Kiyoon taking his second first place, bookending his day Giant Slayer series with a first place. Wow,
Wow.
not bad.
That
Kale
was
comp,
there's
pretty good.
a lot to unpack there, but overall, fantastic micro decisions made by both players. And Kiyoon was able to position one to keep his KO safe, two to optimize the best use of his utility units like Thresh with the bench, and then three of course he needed every bit of HP that he could to because otherwise if he was down HP earlier, the comeback from Daisik would have ended that before he got the opportunity to do that.
And so that leaves us with this as our final standings after day number 2. Kiyoon with 36 points, huge lead for him, almost 10 ahead over Khroen in second place. Then a two-way tie between Tien and Deisik at third and fourth, respectively. Unid manages to jump up to 19 with his win in game number 3. Otherwise, the day did not go so great. Gunmay, a bit of an off day for him as well. KitingIsHard and Lev D Trotskij rounding out the bottom of the pack at 13 and 10 points. But Kiyoon, story of the day, coming in, and I would say
Oof.
perhaps, and I know it's only day 2, but perhaps establishing himself as a front runner for a possible tournament winner, and
Yeah.
it would be crazy to see him win 2 in a row.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this might be a testament as well that practice never lies. Kiyoon is one of the few players still grinding the current live server patch
Right.
and very clearly showing that he has strong proficiency and why he is uncontested the #1 player right now in NA.
Yep, I would say so. It was really impressive watching him pilot different compositions, 2 very different compositions,
Yes.
but we've got him on the line right now. Hey, Kiyoon, what's up? You there?
Oh yeah, hi, hello, hi.
Hey,
Wow.
congratulations. 36 points,
Wow.
dude. Ones and twos. That's all you're getting today, apparently.
Yeah, thank you. It was because I got lucky, and I also played well.
Uh-huh. Which was it more of?
Uh,
You don't
it's
need to be
probably
humble.
it's probably maybe it was 0.1% luck. No, I'm joking. It's probably like I got really lucky this 4 games, and
All
I
right.
also got really lucky with the items and stuff like that. So I was able to get first.
Hmm.
Well,
So,
so why have you been kind of continuing to play this live patch as much as you have? I think a lot of other people they've been moving on to PB or probably taking a little bit of a break while camping their spot. What's motivating you to keep playing at #1?
Uh, it's because I have to play 10 games for the snapshots, so I'm kind of forced to play it. And also, I played in the TL tourney and the tourney, so I have to like keep up.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just like play the same comp usually, like kill, rebel, and mech, which are my
mhm.
go to 3 comps. So I think I was just I had more games played on this patch, which was an advantage over other players.
Yeah,
Totally. Have you been able to try out the PB server at all?
Yeah, I did play like 10 games, around 10.
What do
what
you
do you
think?
think?
I think it's really fun, aside from like Victor and Urgot being a little bit strong, but I think it'll be really fun. Expecting a lot of good changes for for the 3.5 set.
Yeah, it should be cool. So I believe, if I'm correct, this is like the first day that you have played some non-Met games in tournaments since like the beginning of set 3. Is that right?
In tournament, yeah, in tournament,
Yeah, in
yes.
tournaments. Yeah, in tournaments.
No,
But
no, actually, in the TL qualifier, I played a lot of non-mech.
oh, okay, cool. Because we've always been saying that, like, yeah, you're known for playing mech during tournaments, but if you look at like your ladder history and your ladder profile, you play a lot more than that. So is part of this tournament? I mean, obviously, halfway through the tournament, Mech Infiltrator is just going to simply not exist in the game anymore. But
Mhm.
is this tournament kind of an opportunity for you to sort of prove to the haters that are out there that like you can play more than just mech?
I mean, there's like players that think that I could only play 1 comp. Clearly don't know how does this game work. No flame or anything.
Sure.
Like I think I could always play other comp. It's like I'm kind of lazy to learn new comps. I'm like really lazy to learn new comps. So I'm like, if I'm winning already with 1 comp anyway, why bother change it? But I I put mech. I only play comps that are like S tier or S plus tier that are best in the game. That's been since set 1. And it just happened to be that mech was also best comp for a while, which it isn't right now. So I'm not playing mech 1 trick right now.
Mhm. All right, that makes sense. So, just off the top of your head, with the limited PBE experience you've had so far, what do you think is an S tier comp in 3.5?
In PBE? Oh, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Oh,
I have
okay.
no
Not
idea.
willing to make any guesses, any predictions?
Uh, no, I have to. I'm usually a player that copies other people's homework. So
Okay.
like Solus, who's been grinding in PBE,
Yeah.
I just steal his homework and just copy the best comp, and that's about it.
Hey,
Usually, I
Were
never
you a good
innovate. I just
student
copy.
in school?
Was I a good student?
Yeah.
Uh, sure.
All
No,
right.
Like, I don't know what you mean good. Like, I
You
was
said you
pretty good.
copied a homework, so I'm
No, no,
wondering what kind of
no.
student you were in
Like,
school.
I got info from them. I wasn't like copying, literally copying. I just like got all the info, but I just made it my own, like anyone else
Mhm.
does.
Got it.
Yeah.
So there's like, there's different types of players in card games that you refer to. There's like Johnny, Timmy, and Spike, where Spike is like the player that only wants to play what the very best thing is, and he's not maybe like the one to go out and find it, but he'll like perfect it. You definitely seem like a Spike in terms of TFT players.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I don't know who Spike is, but I'll take it
He's
as a
the
compliment.
he's the one
three
that
archetypes
wins.
of
Just
card game
FYI,
players.
he's the one that wins.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
that's
okay,
right.
true, true.
Got it.
All you
Alright.
need to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I need to know is I have to win the EU versus NA tourney.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you really feel like the NA pride is on the line here?
Mm, yes, it was. No, I just want to win every single international tourneys.
I mean,
Like,
that's understandable. Yeah.
yeah. So like CN, I already won.
Yeah.
EU,
Yep.
about to win.
About
Wait,
to
wait, never
win.
mind. That's VM. Never mind. And then Korea next.
Yeah.
Versus the world. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
All
Hey,
right.
Kiyoon,
Well,
so if you're the real quick, last question. If you're the
sure.
top player in NA, who right now, at least just for this patch, who do you think is the best or top player from EU, or at least a player that you think is worth fighting against in your
Oh,
eyes?
top player from EU. I think I'm not BMing any other players. I'm sure they're good, but I really look up to 3 players from EU, which are Dark Hydra, Salvi, and Dusky or Deisik.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I
So the
think those
final
3 players
showdown
are
was
the
a big
best.
win.
So
Sorry.
what is the thing that you look up to them for?
I just learned a lot from them. Like their way of playing econ, it all makes sense. Like I never questioned their play, stuff like that. If you just look at their play, it's like, oh, it just makes sense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's exciting to have players like Deisik and Dark Hydra. For me, especially Dark Hydra, former SC2 player, so a player I'm familiar with from a different game, and bring that kind
For
of
sure, Ricardo's a
mentality.
beast.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that does it for us. Congrats on your win today here in the lobby. A great start to a lot of games going forward. So nice job. Thanks for
Yes.
Okay,
stopping by.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yep. Good luck.
You too. Thank you.
All right. So there you have it. Um, our winner for day number 2 here, Kiyoon, playing more than just mech. He's a more well-rounded player than you expected. Yeah,
He
that's
is a
right.
very
So
well-rounded player, and you can see why people put him on their top 10 lists at the beginning of this set,
yeah.
even when he was still just playing mech. And people say, "Ah, really? You know, you sure he's just not just a person spamming mech?" And it's like, well, yeah, clearly he's very, very good. This is an entire standard deviation away from everybody else in the lobby, so that's incredible. You don't usually see something this consistent in this high density of a skilled lobby.
Literally first, second, second, first today. It does not get much better than that. Khroen as well, managing to take second in the standings. So 2 players actually ahead of our number 1 and 2 players from yesterday, Ine and Kruor. But you can see the pack starting to separate a little bit even after just 2 days of play. So next week, of course, we're going to mix up the players a little bit, build some different lobbies. Let's take a look at that schedule, actually, is what we can expect next week. There's our lobbies for June 8th and June 9th, respectively. Anything jump out at you there, Frodan?
Well, I mean, one of course is can Kiyoon follow up his performance by taking down not one but 2 players he respects deeply in Europe with Deisik and Dark Hydra. I don't believe Salvi qualified for our tournament, but I'm sure Salvi, of course, will come back stronger than ever. And of course, you know, who of the players that underperformed can come back? Today, for example, was not Kiting's day, despite him playing Void Brawler most of those games. So, you know,
Yeah.
can Kiting come back? And then can some of the other Europe players really show up after their middling performance?
Right. Other players like you need relying on Shredder and not finding the best results with that today. So perhaps some kind of reworking of the strategy coming into the tournament games for next week. But man, that was awesome. What a great first couple days of Giant Slayer series season 2. It was a ton of fun seeing a lot of different games, seeing sort of the sunset for the kind of initial set 3 pool of champions and compositions and synergies. I'm glad we get to sort of like see the final days of that and see how the players sort of react to it.
Yep. So I think that this was a great first week. Looking forward to next week, obviously, and really looking forward to 2 weeks from now as well. Once the Midstead expansion drops,
Right.
can't come soon enough.
Absolutely. So That will do it for us here at Giant Slayer Series. Again, thanks to juke.gg for sponsoring the tournament and for giving us a great landing page where you can go and see all the player POVs. Once again, !GSS in chat to see that as well. Join us again next week for more Teamfight Tactics action. DoA and Frodan, we will be here casting. We hope to see you there as well. And again, as our week goes on, proceeds from today will all be donated to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And as you're out there making positive change, be safe, be respectful, and be good. We'll see you next time.